2023 wasn't a good year for the Carolina Panthers, but I'm trying to make 2024 a better one for myself. Get started on your resolutions with Factor so you're ready for the new year. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success in the new year. Skip the grocery stores, prep work, and cooking fatigue. Instead, get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. With over 35 meals to choose from per week, including keto options, calorie smart, vegan plus veggie, and more, plus over 55 weekly add-ons, you'll have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart your resolutions. Skip that overpriced takeout trap. Factor is cheaper and way more delicious than takeout. Get chef-crafted, restaurant-quality meals delivered right to your door, and they're ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes, which means more time for you. Head to factormeals.com/C350 and use the promo code C350 to get 50% off. That's code C350 at factormeals.com/C350 to get 50% off.
In a world where Carolina Panthers fans have an insatiable thirst for Panthers news and opinions, only one podcast roars ferociously. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast.
Yo, what's the deal, Panther fans? It's your boy, the Professor. Nope, we're not unmuted. What's the deal, Panther fans? It's your boy, the Professor, a.k.a. Tony Dunn. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast, Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Tonight's show is Blackout, and it isn't a Thursday night game. We've all been sequestered to our homes under a lock and order of the government in my city. So we'll be talking about local news. Not local news. We'll be talking about Panther news and opinions as well as just society in general. I don't think you can separate the two. You know, that kind of discussion of sports and politics, keep them separate. You know, there's some limitations to the reality of that. So we'll be talking about the Carolina Panthers, the signing of Eli Apple, the retirement, the official retirement of Luke Kuechly, and the NFL in reaction to pandemic and protest. I'm going to be doing it tonight with my homeboys. First and foremost, my man, my co-host, Cody Lashney in the house. How you doing?
Tony Dunn. It doesn't matter if the world's burning, man. There's nothing I'd rather do on a Tuesday night than talk Panthers with my boys and all of my favorite Panther fans in the YouTube chat. Michael Jones, Underground West, Panther Coon, Joey the Blind Panther, Esquivel, Tyler Duncan, Tin Tizzy, Underground West. I don't even care if I'm reading names twice. I love you. Thank you all for joining us tonight. And Tony Dunn, ain't nothing to it but to do it, brother. Let's roll.
CK in the house as well, representing the VA. What's up, brother?
You know, living in a crazy world, and you know, it's I guess left a lot of people speechless, man. But I'm happy to be here with all of you guys. I'm happy to hear, you know, Cody's back and got the energy and ready to roll. And then, you know, as you guys will see, we got Greg the Bat Daddy back as well after a short hiatus because of all of his extra projects he has to worry about.
It was certainly no rest. I'm sure he would have rather been chilling with us on the podcast.
Exactly.
Greg building a barn. You thought taking care of a pig was tough. Build your own dang professional shed, and you're doing it, homie. It looks fantastic.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's been really tough work. You know, I've had a two bye weeks in a row. You call it. So
has it been
a lot of time
two?
to think.
What's the status with the YouTube stuff? How did the lives? Where are we at on that?
The first show ran well. The second show, I don't know. I messed up somehow. We just rolled with it. There were still a couple guys in the chat room that were listening. They could hear me. They couldn't hear anybody else. I got to get figured out. But new computer, new
digs.
Webcam.
You got the new digs.
Like webcam look good.
Yeah.
Got everything set up right. Y'all hear me? All right. Yeah, it's been a crazy 2 weeks, man. But
the Bat Dad is looking professional. I like that.
Got to.
Good to have you back, bro.
Stepping up. Thanks, man. It's thrown my week off not being here. the last 2 Tuesdays. Really has.
Before we move into the show, look, we do ask all the fans to smash the thumbs up button. Tell someone about the podcast. I do want to ask everybody though, and thank you for your generosity on the show. But tonight, if you were intending to donate to the show, right, pick your own local something that would make your community better and donate it. Donate to them tonight. I'm not going to tell you what is going to make the world better. I'm not going to profess to have the answers to wave the magic wand and fix society both socially and biologically at this point, right? With the pandemic. I mean, we're like that's the biology under threat here. So just pick your own, whatever would make, if it's a homeless shelter, whatever is in your heart tonight, if you were going to donate to this show, thank you for that generosity and just turn it to your local community. But you can support the show by calling into the Cat Calls line. The number is 252-228-5098. You can follow us on Twitter at @cat_chronicles. And where else are we at? That's it. Oh, Cody, I was watching the Cripple Connection. You guys had me. You got me hooked, bro. I'm in there. I'm watching these trailers of these games. I'm over there waving my arms in the chat room. Cody,
so
fan.
I know. I have to. I gotta get better at looking at the chat when I do that one. But there's a big PlayStation press conference at 4, and we're gonna try and live stream it on Thursday. So check that out too. But yeah, man, I need to read the chat room better. But I will not have that problem tonight. And Trill One's in the chat room and said, "Did y'all see Shat Thompson, Trey Boston, Ian Thomas, and Manhurts at the Charlotte protest?" And yeah, I saw the photo. I basically live in the Uptown area, and it surprisingly up here, it hasn't been too bad. It hasn't been as chaotic as places like Atlanta or Houston or any of these other bigger cities. But yeah, I mean, listen, you don't even know what to say at a time like this. This is a podcast about Panthers football, and it's hard to do that sometimes though when the world might really be burning outside your window. So I mean, these are crazy times, and I don't. That's why I don't blame any person, no matter what sports team you play for, be it the Panthers or who else. If speaking up for what's right is something that, as an American, you're entitled to do, and you're allowed to, express your right to protest that. I mean, that's literally what being an American is, and understanding that not everyone in this country, specifically Black and brown people, are treated the same way by our police force. And no, that doesn't go for all police officers, but we now have seen it on video that it does go for some of them. So, and it's terrible, and it's a travesty. And listen, I'm 30 years old. I mean, I like to consider myself a wise person, but I understand how little I know. And I try and use these moments to learn and learn about the experiences that I have never had and will never have, and also what I can do to better my community and help out people who are in different circumstances than me. And of course, to tie it back to football, but when you're a Black athlete like Shat Thompson and you represent your city of Charlotte, being here, playing for the Panthers, yeah, you want to show your support in your own community. So I'm proud of those guys, and it's a difficult time to talk about these things, man, because everything is so on fire right now, literally on fire.
Well, I think one thing that's going to help a little, right, is something that you did just then, and you sought to empathize with people.
Right.
So, there's a kind of human tendency to get defensive about society, or like, well, the life has fucking dealt me a hand too. So, but if you know anything about everybody's life journey, is that they all have these giant challenges in them. But sometimes, look, you just empathize with people and you have your own individual life challenges, right? But you didn't sit here and go, look at me. And what you're doing is you're trying to be honestly considerate of your fellow man in that case. And if people can't, and that's really, I think, the only way to improve society is for us to just be compassionate, to be understanding, to be patient, as much as we can with every individual. And in this case, I don't want anybody to interpret that as like an all lives matter type thing, because you won't catch me saying that, like, duh, right? But how do we fix things? I think as we raise our children to be kind, compassionate, patient, forgiving.
Can I get on my hot box?
No, get out of here. You're going to get us all fired from our jobs. Miranda's been fired. She's been fired. My wife is in here. She's been on fire today. All right, so I'll pass the mic over. You guys.
Blackout Tuesday.
Go. You're gonna
Blackout Tuesday.
She almost took down a business in another state by accident.
Gosh. That's a hell of a thing to do on accident.
Yeah. She's been. You want to talk about some people they're like warriors right now for people. So anyway, those are kind of my thoughts on it. Another thing is, my dad used to always say this. I'm a Yankee. My mom's a Yankee transplant to North Carolina, right? My mom's from Queens. My father is not my biological father. He really is my dad, though. Like, he adopted me when I was young. He's like my dude. Like, so, but he's from Rocky Mount, so he's this like country ass motherfucker with this most Italian Queens, New Yorker lady. It's the most bizarre thing you ever see in your entire life. But my dad has these kind of country truisms, is that I have the fancy paper education. My dad kind of has the life education. And always says this: the more things change, the more they stay the same. And that's really kind of what is perpetuated in society, at this moment. And that's why I think people are hot, these pressure points.
Well, that's like saying that history repeats itself, which is, it's true. It always will. Like,
or things don't really change as much as we think they do.
Yeah. I mean, this is a real. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Greg.
Well, I was just going to say, this is a really touchy subject, and just it's difficult to talk about because you like Cody said, you want to empathize with people and you want to feel for people, and you don't want to come off across like Tony said, where you're it's the all lives. You're wanting to focus on what's going on, and I get that, and I'm in Winston-Salem, and just over all this stuff happening for the last few days, I haven't noticed a difference anywhere that I'm at. And I'm in Winston-Salem and all the little surrounding cities.
Do you have a curfew right now?
No, that was what I was going to bring up. Is that Winston-Salem? There was an article that came out today. Winston-Salem is one of only a few major cities, and when I say major, Winston-Salem is a big city. One of the few major cities in North Carolina that doesn't have a curfew and has had no looting and no like rightful protests and everything, and
a giant civil rights history too. You know what I mean? Yeah. If you think about it, there's like a lot of issues that have converged in that region of the state. Oh yeah.
So the thing was, the police force here, they stood with the protesters in the protests. It's one of the cities that the police force actually stood with the protesters, and we've had no looting, we've had no violence. I haven't noticed really any difference other than hearing about the protests going on. So it's just so weird from where I'm at to see my perspective, because I wanna be able to look at things from all different lenses and all different points of views, but I can't. I can only see what I deal with. And what I deal with seems like people handling things really well and like very, very, very civilized. And I'm not saying that other methods of doing that are not. It just doesn't seem like I don't know. I'm not fearful for going outside right now.
See, we need to hear more of that.
So,
My city, the city I live in, I feel like is overly weirded out by all this. Like, why did I have to rush home from dinner tonight? Like, I feel like it was just ridiculous.
I think part of the problem is a lot of times people are kind of living on what they're seeing on the internet. And again,
fear porn. It's fear porn.
And you know what you're seeing on the internet is very real, but you're seeing, you know,
microcosm, of the public problem. Yeah.
It's not. That might not be the how your community is reacting, but
can I tell you guys a wild story that is very relevant to this from the past? All right, I was reading an account from a person who lived in a very important city in the South, right? So they lived in like a university city in, I will say, in Georgia, right? And they were telling me, you know, when I was reading, I heard about how it was like when they desegregated schools. And this is coming from a white person in a very comfortable financial situation, right? Very probably good social status. And they were like fearful for their safety. And the thing that was so bizarre when I'm reading this is that's like, this is the exact opposite of what the reality of the world was at that point. And so what I mean by that is the person who was the most safe felt unsafe, right? And so even fast forward today, last night, a rumor got started in Greenville, North Carolina, that these Antifa, I don't know if they said Antifa led, but you know, that these protesters were targeting these upper middle class white neighborhoods. And there's zero validity to it. But guess what? Motherfuckers got scared as hell. That's the problem, folks. The most safe people are complaining about being unsafe. So I'm with you, Greg. Yeah. I'm with you.
I've seen people on Twitter post Twitter pics of like people complaining, tear it down, burn shit up. But then apparently it got a little too close to their neighborhood, and then they were like, "Oh my god, please,
slow down.
Yeah, this needs to stop now. Please, I don't want to die."
All right, let's get CK in here. We haven't even heard from CK. He's on the sidelines. What's up, man?
Man, you know, it's one of the things that I was mentioning before the show is for the longest time, at least for the past 10 years, it's an argument that I've had, you know, and it's an argument that, you know, again, I think over the past 10 years have changed. I was never one to be considered a racist, but I was definitely on a more right side of things when I'd see things like this happen. I was like, we don't know the whole story. The officer, you know, we don't see everything. This is just a microcosm. This is something that we don't see very often. It's the majority of the police are good and all of those things. And I would make those arguments and I'd be that person. And over the past 10 years with everything happening, I feel my heart slowly changing. And I feel like I had one of the most major changes here as of this past week. And it had a lot to do with, you know, we saw this happen. We all can agree it was wrong. It was, you know, evil, as some might even consider it.
Yep.
But what I saw was, again, more of this fear mongering, and it's a valid concern. There was a video of a gentleman who, by all accounts, from my understanding, was trying to protect a business from looters. Again, we don't know the whole story, but he was beaten and looked like he was dead. I don't know what the reality of that is. Looked like he was beaten by these looters and rioters to death. And then it looked like his wallet was stolen, all these things. And I had this just anger, like this anger in the pit of my stomach about that. And then I started to think what I would do if I got my hands on them, like just those types of thoughts. And then I started to think about it, and I'm like, this is exactly what black people feel when they see that video of George, right?
Mhm.
This is the exact thing that they see. Every time one of these videos happen, they have that exact same anger. And you know, I don't know about you, but if I'm not listened to, if I'm making a very valid and logical argument for a matter of 30 minutes and somebody is still refusing to see my side of things, I get angry. Like I get blood pumping, blood pressure high. I get angry, right? And so, and I'm not
We
saying
want
I
to
lose
throw
control.
hands sometimes.
Yeah,
I want to.
but you know, imagine that happening for your entire life. And I've been hearing, and I think I've started to understand it. I have no ability to argue what they experience. You know, I can only go by my own experiences, and by all accounts, I've had a pretty easy life. Granted, yes, am I given? Do I have the benefit of a lot of other people? No, my father's been in and out of prison my entire life as well. You know, I haven't had the benefit of a very wealthy family. Everything I have, I had to work my butt off for. But I still feel like I've had it fairly easy when I think about the idea that I can walk down the street and not see a police officer, or see a police officer and not put on sunglasses just to try to make sure I'm not able to be, you know, I'm not in their sight, or I'm maybe less conspicuous or something like that. I haven't had to deal with any of that. And so when
you always go watch Little Dicky's white guy video, and it is a very intellectual, also satirical though, analysis of this. But you know, this is what you're highlighting here is another thing that's, and y'all don't want me to go all historian on this, right? I try to keep. I stupidly made my nickname in the early goings of this show the Professor. Mm-hmm. And now in retrospect, I wish it wasn't that, because I like to distance my personal life and this podcast, should I say, from my profession, right? And that is not the best way to do it. But you don't want me to go all historian on y'all. Like, I'll keep you up for days here. But the idea is this is kind of like I was watching this documentary on Jack Johnson. He was the first African-American heavyweight champion. By the way, I was the first person to ever teach the only person to teach African-American history at Pitt Community College. Proud of that moment. Not that I'm a expert on it, but this guy, this guy. I mean, I'm not I'm a colonial historian, so my interest and my research overlaps with a large amount of it. But it's not like what I just did the whole time I was in graduate school, right? So, but this guy, William Crouch, he said this. He said there's two myths in the world. He said one of the myth of Paradise Lost. And what he was referring to is like that there was this beautiful past in human history that we have lost. Kind of like the myth of the Garden of Eden, like it was perfect and now it's imperfect, right? He said that's one myth. And he said the other myth is that black people were okay with segregation. And the point that I bring this up to you, CK, is sometimes America, actually the whole time, they've had the ability to naively underestimate people who are wrong, have been wronged and continue to be wronged, the deepness of their, not their opposition, you know what I'm saying? Like, or whatever whatever that is, that correct word is there. And this idea that and this myth has always pervaded American history. So after the Civil War, it was like, oh, well, there's no more slavery. The world's better. Then after Reconstruction, they're like, well, there's the 14th and 15th Amendment. The world's fixed. After this, after the 60s, it was like, this is fixed. This is fixed. And if you sweep under the rug the wart, right? As one historian, what was his name? He was a sociologist actually studying the United States history. And he described it just ultimately as like the moral stain on America. Right? Like, this is it. And like, this is like the wart on the hot girl's face. Like, she's the hottest girl in the world. She just got this big giant wart on her forehead. And that's it.
And it has been, man. It has been since since the inception of our country. Again, man, no one has the answers to this. How do you fix racism in 2020 for 500, Alex? It's like, I mean, this is tough shit, you know? And again, like, we're a podcast of 4 white dudes, you know, and it is a little bit different for me because I've been in a wheelchair all my life. So I know what it's like to have people that just inherently look at you differently and you know, and jump to certain conclusions about you without knowing or even caring to know you. So, you know, I can't empathize completely, but I have been through something similar. And what I can say is that whenever you just, you know, again, this is my, you know, my hippy dippy moment of the show, but it's like when you do make it a point to get to know someone and know where they come from and know the people that love them and depend on them, all this white, black, Hispanic, it doesn't matter where you're from. I mean, you really start to feel a human connection between people. And I think the scary thing that this is teaching us all is that basic empathy that we have for one another, there are some people that just don't have that. And they do it for something as stupid as, that's a black man, and I don't, you know, I see him as a human. And there are people that are like that. But I think if you're making an attempt in your day-to-day life to try and get to know someone that's different from you, that comes from a different background, whenever you have the opportunity to do so, not only do you grow, but you help them to grow in their own personal points of views too. So
this is why this is why I was celebrating your position earlier and the honesty and authenticity of it, right? What you just said. The other thing I really do think is that, like, while we can't fully empathize, what we can all empathize with at this moment is that we clearly live in a state where the state of the overuse of force, excessive use of force by a police state in a like, I'm becoming more libertarian again. Every day now. Like, I'm starting to get like this. It's like, get the F out of my business, man. Like, let gay people get married. Get out of my business, man. Stop trying to write me a speeding ticket, a parking ticket, take me to jail. And I hate to say this, is that I've always come, and this is where I guess my profession and my personal life have trouble meshing, as like, I'm not like a street kid, but like, I've come from like just working class people, so I just wasn't always like in this polished place. That's why I got a foul mouth. But like, the worst thing you can ever do is call the police. Like, unless somebody is like really killing me. Like, I mean, if we're fighting over the lawnmower, if we're fighting over these girls, if we arguing over who pissed on whose bushes, once you call the police, everything gets effed up. Like, it always gets worse, man. So that's what I think is my real problem too, is I continue just say this. Like, I don't feel like bad for the protester. I mean, for the police. Like, you're not going to make these protesters in a bad light. They're like, God, the police got the batons. They got the spray guns. They got all this. And they use it with ease, man. The first thing is like this. Oh, you push on the fence a little bit? Pepper spray to the face, homie.
Rubber bullet to your eyeball.
Yeah, it's too it's just too liberal. They're too liberal with their use of power.
You know what I will say I have noticed? A lot of people who used to be very anti-gun are now kind of like, oh shit! The police can do that. Like a lot of lefties are kind of
like
looking.
Maybe
at
we need to strap up too.
Yeah, hey,
It's
maybe,
moments. It's
time to
moments like
strap up.
this. It's moments like this that this amendment is meant to actually be like.
Right.
That's is
Right.
why it's what it's meant for. It's not meant as a way to just allow us to kill people. It's a way to be able to actually fight back against an oppressive government that we ran from to begin with. And what's crazy about it is, and we talk about this from the history, you talk about this, I'm sure, we have had slaves in America longer than we've had no slaves in America. Just think about that. Like, that is the majority of our entire history is actually having slavery legalized. That part is what's, if you think about it from that perspective, you realize how we look at ourselves as the morally right country, right? We're free. We came over here. But while we were still doing the slave trade, Britain was putting like ridiculous amount of money into trying to stop the trade slave.
Trade slave,
right?
Slave trade,
yeah.
Slave
trade, yeah.
So there's some complications there. The British were able to bail out of slavery because they didn't really have it in England a lot easier than people who did. So it is more complicated where it existed to get out of the business of slavery. And then the other is like, ultimately is that this is inherently race was bound to the institution of slavery, right? It's actually one of the first, you want to take one of my American History 1 classes and we'll give you this lecture, is like, slavery existed all throughout the world, but in the Americas, not the United States, but all the Americas, after about the 1500s, all of a sudden you saw a system of slavery that was tied to race, right? So it's not just exclusive to the United States. It was all throughout, in fact, the Caribbean had like 95% of all the slaves, but at the same point is now become it's part of the narrative of our country, and to deny that. So you don't want to hear people say, slavery so long ago. We'll just say this is race is built and interwoven into the fabric of America. It's just very simple. Well, it's not simple. It's very complicated, but that statement is not complicated. And it's just true. Yeah. It's just certainly true. And I continue to say this is like, I'm a libertarian more per the day. Is look, if we prescribed a little bit, I'm not going to tell you what to do politically because I like public schools. So it's complicated. Like, I like public schools. I work for my job is paid by the state. To call me a libertarian is also somewhat, what is it when you make a contradiction yourself? Hypocritical, right? So I work for the state and I act like I don't want the state involved in my life. But I feel like this is like, all I know is that like we're following all these fucking rules, man. All these damn rules. And I'm living in fear all the time of the man. So if I feel like that, I tell you this, is other people who really have to feel like that must be fucking irate.
Yeah.
That's it. It's like, but I'm really like this. Is I tell my students, I say, don't, and I should not say this on the podcast. I'm gonna whisper it. Maybe nobody will hear it. But tax evasion is American patriotism. That's what I tell them. Like, it's like actually kind of fighting these forces is very patriotic. That's why I say this. It's like, hey, if you can do this for cash, I ain't reporting Uncle Sam. That's American.
Well, I mean, that's literally
true.
Fighting unfair taxation is as American.
Or evading taxation, period, is certainly American.
Or just dumping shit into the sea. We're pretty good at that, too. Be it tea or nuclear waste, dude. Whatever. Just dump that shit out.
I'm with you. Fight the police
nuclear waste. One end of the spectrum to the other. Like,
dump it
we
out,
have definitely evolved as a species.
Yeah. we're good at dumping shit into bodies of water.
I feel the other thing that comes off right now in society, and I was saying this a little bit earlier, is like, don't the people who have the most power and the most money and the most opportunity, aren't they really great at making you feel sorry for them? You know, it's like this. It's like, oh, we can't empathize with people who are calling for a better society. Let's empathize with these fucking assholes. I shouldn't be cursing so much. I'm applying for a job.
Well, Greg, you go ahead. It seems like you got something you want to say.
No, I just wanted to ask Tony there. You're talking about the people that are like the in the best set positions are like have a way of making us feel bad for them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Colin Kaepernick. I'm sorry. Good. Keep talking.
I would actually put him in I would not even. The reason I don't agree with that is because, like, in one scale, in comparison, individually, you and I, yeah, he might be in a good position, right? But in the position of somebody who's like, the owner of Sprint. Or something like, so
okay,
here's the thing
fine.
is that, like, then you take this one kind of example of a successful person, like, here's the thing is that I had this one person. Let me give you an example. I was a big Obama fan, and I should not be opening this much up personally on this podcast. Giant Obama fan, man. I saw him speak at Menzies Coliseum when I was in graduate school. I walked out there, man on fire, man. Optimistic, young.
Cam Newton, Barack Obama, you're attracted to strong black men.
I am. You are so right. So I walked out of this, man on fire. So I went and I was like a Obama supporter, really liked him. In 2012, I even barely helped with his campaign. I said I registered 3 voters. Right. You know what I'm saying? I did something, but I went and stood outside this place for 2 hours. Anyway, the point being is, what was I talking about? We were talking about, so this guy was giving me shit, right? So I was it was before the second campaign. So it was 2010, 2009, probably. Maybe it was even the election year of 2008. My friend, he was, all right, so it was an election year. And he said this, and so he's like, I was like, yeah, I like this guy, man, I'm cool with him. But I wasn't at this party, saying, oh, rah, rah, Obama. It was 2000, I just saw him, I was like, and he was like, dude, you're voting for socialism. You're voting for this. If you support this, you're all this. So at that time, I was a father of a 1-year-old. I had a master's degree. I was teaching at 5 different colleges. I was still working at Michelangelo's Pizza, the pizza restaurant that I worked at when I was 16 years old. I worked 65 hours a week that year. Right? Actually, I did it for 18 months. 7 days a week. I had a half day off. I made $22,000 a year. Think about that. Master's degree, $22,000, trying to get this. I'm teaching at these colleges. I'm trying to get my foot in the door. I got this kid. You're paying for your health insurance. And this asshole said, don't vote for this guy. Instead, vote for this guy who by the way, this guy also lived in a $450,000 house. He had a $80,000 boat. His dad owned a business that was 7 generations, or 2 generations old. And he's telling me to vote for my ideals over voting for this guy that says he likes community colleges. That would give me a job. I was like, fuck you. You vote for your interest. I'll vote for mine, homie. And my interest is lower insurance for a guy that makes $22,000 a year and paid his own way through college. Don't make me try to feel sorry for people who got the silver spoon, is my point.
I am so glad you made that point right there, because I was taking notes and I wanted to bring up the reason why I said the Colin Kaepernick thing. And when I mentioned Colin Kaepernick, the first thing you said was, well, he's well off, but he's not as well off as an AT&T CEO. Well, of course not. I can say that about anything. when you compare me to a person who doesn't have a job and doesn't have a house, I'm doing fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Certainly.
raising and lowering the bar. But I wanted to bring up that point you just said. You were talking about your friend that you just said had the silver spoon, had a $450,000 house, a boat, and all this stuff. You think Colin Kaepernick has all that stuff? I guarantee he does. I guarantee he does.
But he's actually voting for my
I guarantee you
interest.
he's doing well off. My point is, why did we look at Colin Kaepernick as, well, he's not that well off, but the guy you're talking about right there, he's well off. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, I would tell you this
shine a light on
because
different- we
this
shine a light
guy
on
is
different
probably in the top 8% of my county then. So, like, if you want to compare it, like, throughout what I'm trying to say is this, is that ultimately we can cherry pick some examples.
Yeah.
Look, there's some very successful black people, but what they can't be interested in. Here's the thing, is like the whole world is burning shit down. They're burning shit down right now because of what Homeboy was trying to tell you 2 years ago, what people were trying to tell Americans 30 years ago, 50 years ago. Let's not act like Rosa Parks was the first motherfucker that protested segregation. God, I cannot stop cussing tonight. I am totally not getting a job.
But while you're, recuperating from that, one of the things because it feels different to me right now, feels different than what we've experienced in the past, right? It feels like there is more movement. I'm not saying it's it's going to be fixed tomorrow, right? That's not what I mean by that, but it feels different. And if you ask me, I think that not having sports right now is helping this cause tremendously.
Ooh, that's a good point. Okay. Very good point.
Because
what else we got to talk about?
Like, let's be honest. I mean, look at this podcast. If we had 17 things to talk about, this would be really hard for us to have this conversation for 40 minutes. Mm-hmm. We do have some things we want to talk about: Eli Apple, all of that stuff, and the guys that were a part of the Panthers and what they've had going on. But nonetheless, I mean, not having sports, I think, has helped this cause tremendously, because what happens is when Kaepernick, when he kneeled, regardless of whether you feel like that was the appropriate way of doing it or not. That was a peaceful protest, right?
Yeah.
And all we wanted to focus on is how that disrespected the flag. And then, again, whether or not that's a valid concern, that's not the argument I'm making here. What I'm making is that became a business decision, right? That became that was the NFL then had to make a decision about whether they wanted to continue to allow that type of stuff because it could hurt their bottom dollar, their bottom, but now there is none of that. There is no financial loss right now because of this, outside of the rioters and the anarchists who are trying to pin this stuff on people again, we talk about the microcosm, everything being focused on it. There's 10 rioters to 20 million peaceful protesters. Let's also think about it from that perspective.
Right.
Oh yeah.
But all of that, we think about it from that perspective. I think sports not being here has allowed people to focus on this for what it really is. And that is systemic racism that exists. And I think that if any, and I know we've already got one dislike, and I know it's going to happen because we're talking about things that are very, has a lot of tension involved with it. But what I will say is we have no choice but to look inward right now. We can't have somebody else. The NFL has no way of telling us. We have no commentators who are able to tell us what's going on. This is simply us being able to make our own opinions and seeing what's going on in the world. And if any, and I'm not going to say every.
Yeah, we're not going to lose
any
any sponsors. Don't worry.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that every white person that's listening, but I can tell you a majority of the white people listening know a family member or a close friend that is racist, right? And maybe doesn't go out there and wear the cap and gown, right? They don't go out there with the hood. But that's because we're in a society where you can't live and actually be successful.
What's
if you're doing
even
that
worse,
type of activity.
CK? Is that
What?
I guarantee you everybody knows someone who's racist that doesn't think they are.
Exactly.
That's the
That's
real like issue or not the real issue. I keep saying that. I don't need to quantify all these things, but it's a very important issue is that a lot of people who throw stones or are talking about people casting stones throw the biggest stones and they don't even know it. You know, it's just like, oh my God, yes, they desegregated schools and it was worse for you, the white girl in a very privileged neighborhood, than this poor other person who had just been stomped on by society. You know, that's what the point is. Like this is like the real is there are so many. It's kind of like it's the running joke where it's like, well, you got one black friend, right? Well, you're not a racist. Is that kind of thing? Is that
right.
Those are almost the most dangerous. Not that I read this book once about the Greensboro stuff in the 60s. It's a very complicated book. But what he said was this, is he just said like Greensboro was a very progressive town for a long time for black people. They had like a strong economic force. They had all of this, but it turned out to be the slowest to desegregate because they kind of like hung their hat on like, well, we're the good white people. You know, and so I mean, there's all of these things. It's so complicated. That's why you just got to be kind to people, man. And you know what? We can't fix the transgressions of the past, but all I can do is this: is I open the door for someone who walks in front of me. What they look like, I don't care. I mean, I guess you could say I implicitly do care, but I'm gonna try not to. You know, it's like this. I'm gonna help this person on the road if their tire's busted, and I'm gonna try to just help my fellow man as much as I can and raise my kids to not be assholes.
No.
So I wanted to say, kind of one more thing about this. I promise we'll talk football at some point. But one of the things that like it's tough, and we were even talking about this before the show, like, and I kind of touched on this a little bit too. It doesn't matter, what sports network show you turn on. Everyone's having to, talk about this because this is the most pressing thing that's happening in our nation. Yeah, and it might not be right
and
outside
there's
your
zero
door.
sports.
Right.
Zero.
Yeah,
right?
and there's zero sports. So it's like, and again, this is like when LeBron James, someone told him to shut up and dribble and just stick to basketball. Like, yeah, I get it. And you might come to a podcast or a sports show like this for a distraction to get away from everything going on in the world. And then you realize that the people that you're looking for or that you're looking towards for the distraction, they also live in that real world that you're trying to get away from, that everyone's trying to figure. Everyone's a part of this real world. So it's like, listen, no one wants to be talking about these things right now. We all wish that we were in a world where George Floyd was still alive. The coronavirus, all this horse shit isn't going on. But like that's just the reality of the world that we live in. I mean, you talk about the good and the bad. And that's what we do on this podcast, too. We don't ever bullshit you. When with David Tepper, we've talked about his good qualities and bad qualities. We do that with players. Was this player playing good or playing like shit? Was it on the coaches or was Dante Jackson just out there being a bonehead? You have to be honest about all these things that are going on or that are happening, and we're all figuring it out in real time.
Mm-hmm.
So the conversation is good. You have to have these conversations sometimes. They're not fun to have all the time. You'd rather be doing other shit, but it is what it is,
I think we said that a lot with the Kaepernick stuff, right? And that's the kind of point. Is it's like
you're muted, Tony. Oh. You're muted.
It's like that's it. It's not. I think you put it very well, Cody. And that is this: is that look? That's why we do this podcast. Actually, is for our own kind of retreat, right? I got a job. Yeah. I got 3 kids. I got a wife. I got all of these things. I got this yard, all this shit that I don't need to be doing a podcast. But one of the great things about the pandemic that revealed to me is like my wife's like, oh, you don't ever want to hang out with your friends. You know, and she's like trying to organize this shit. I'm like, don't even do this. I don't want to do nothing. You know, I'm like, and I go this, you know what? Is I do hang out with my friends every Tuesday night.
Like, don't make plans for me, shit.
Right,
If I
like, it's just
want to
like-
see them, I'll see them.
This is what I do to get away, right? So I understand that. But you're right. We live in this world just like we can't extract those Panther players from the discussion from those protests that were in Raleigh. We can't extract society and politics from each other, but we can try to focus on football. So let's turn that discussion to what is there to talk about? Eli Apple. I think a fantastic signing, actually. I'm on the Eli Apple train. I think this is great. I think it continues to tell us that this team, while we have been a little concerned about some of the moves, and I don't want to bring back the discussion we just had for 49 minutes, but, you know, like Eric Reed was a player who was a big contributor to our team. We have mixed feelings about how good he is. I really thought he was good, and sometimes I wasn't the same. But my point being is this, is like you see some of the moves, and you're like, I don't know. But there is a certain consistency to the Carolina Panthers plan, and that is to get younger. There may be only like one or two players that are above 30 years old on the Carolina Panthers team, and I like this idea of Eli Apple, a player who does come from a good pedigree, a former first-round draft pick. I'm not going to rest his laurels on that, but I will say he was a contributor to that New Orleans Saints defense, and I don't care if people want to marginalize that as a role player, nickel player, a third corner. They re-signed him after the trade year, and that speaks a little bit. I think we may get a guy who could potentially not, I think is a viable starter from day one, but maybe could be better than people expect.
Hey,
Wow, was that too excited? Greg, your laugh made it sound like I was on too much of a pitch man campaign.
Well, I was just thinking about you describing that, and that may be just what gets us that sixth win and wins me that bet.
Oh, that's where the laugh came from. Oh my goodness!
I did want to say that this Google Meet is actually pretty cool because there's an option to turn on closed captions. So when Tony speaks, it transcribes everything you say.
Yeah.
Actually, when everybody speaks, and I can't pull my eyes away from it. Like I have to read what you're saying while I'm listening to you saying it.
How close is it to the words I am saying?
It's pretty close.
Yeah, about maybe a second off.
No, translation though.
Yeah, no, they're typically.
What does it do when I do
on.
MFer? When I said Rosa Parks and MFer in the same sentence?
Say it.
No, I'm not saying it again.
It said
I already made the damn
effer.
mistake.
M, ER or EFR. M, effer. That's what it said.
All right. But is it like saying anything that's not true? Like when I say apple, does it say like Arangelo or something?
No, it's pretty good. Like it's way better than the text to speech or speak to text on the phone.
Okay.
That's for damn sure. Hey, can I just tell everyone the funniest Eli Apple story real quick?
Please.
When he was still playing with the New York Giants, and that team was a dumpster fire for a long time. They were asking him a question, and Eli Apple, just out of nowhere, the reporters are talking to him, and he's like, I gotta take a shit. and then just turns and walks off and goes.
I feel you, my man. I feel you.
Like Forrest Gump. I got pee.
I feel like
it's not in the slightest way relevant to football, but I thought that's a story worth telling.
His mom is pretty active on social media. Like I was on this radio show because I go on every week. I've told you guys about it. Sports Bar, Clip Rock, Pirate Radio, 92.7. They just got the FM station, Pirate Radio 1250. But he was talking about Eli. He's like, he's not a Panthers fan. He's a Redskins fan. He had just heard of Eli kind of as a, just because you heard of him with the trade and some different things. The Panther fans are a little bit more in tune to him because I think that he was seriously in consideration that year for the draft. I felt like I was more familiar with him than usual, right, as a prospect. And so his mom, though, is very outspoken in social media, and he recognized her more than Eli. And it made me think of Mike Tolbert. Mike Tolbert, I railed him on this podcast for being this big, fat power back that can't get 2 inches in a 4th and 1. And his mom tweeted me one day, Mama Tolbert came after me. Because and it's the truth, I will say this to Mike Tolbert's face, is for your size and that bowling ball look, you're not really that great in 4th and short, man. You are better when you get a little momentum. You're better when you get in the open field and give Eric Reed a concussion. You're better when you get it 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage. He just never, I'm telling you, look up Mike Tolbert's short yard conversion rate. I know it's terrible, and I'll tell you.
And then it was so weird because then he would have these weird agility moments where he'll catch a pass and dance into the end
he's
zone.
The dancing bear. He's the Grateful Dead dancing bear out there.
Yeah, the dancing bear.
He even went to the Bills and he had a really good run in the snow, man. He had one of the best plays. You guys remember that when he just bowled over some guys up there in Buffalo?
Yeah. He's like a locomotive. He needs a little time to get that steam going.
How about this though? Do any of us feel better about our secondary? Like I remember Tony when I mentioned there's a chance that Troy Pride, one of the guys that we just drafted, would be one of our starting corners outside of Dante, that scared you. So now that we have a veteran, do you feel better about it? Because
calling him a veteran is a little generous, right? He's 26. He's 26, and he's kind of one of those guys who was drafted with a lot of expectations. Did not initially meet those expectations. But again, I think Cody pointed out, this is important. The Giants were a damn mess at the time, right? So maybe you're talking about a guy who needed a little polish, who could have used a good structure or something in his rookie year. And then you come into that dumpster-ass fire of the New York Giants. Remember the guy with the slick back hair? What was his name? God, they were such a...
Jeremy Shockey?
No, the coach. The coach that was just...
I was thinking about
he looked like a
Greasy
70 porn star. And it was just like the team was
McAdoo,
all in
Ben
this...
McAdoo.
Yeah, Ben McAdoo. Yep.
And he had those stupid sunglasses.
It was just so awful. And then Eli Apple got suspended for tweeting from the sidelines during the game. So I think that kind of started his the way I see it is he could be a gem that needed structure and polish, some pressure in the right ways. But he got traded to the Saints for a 4th and a 7th. And I think it's important to say this, is the Saints have tried to push their chips a little bit in the last couple of years. They have not just sat around and said, let's see how it goes. They've kind of tried to make some moves to make that defense better in the last moment. They've made some in-season moves. They have done the finagling that they always do. And one of those was the Eli Apple trade. Okay, it's a trade. It helps you this year. They re-signed him after that. They got him on another year contract. And I think that says something. It's we thought this guy was a positive contributor to our defense, which the New Orleans Saints defense has been much improved. And we know they're in financial disarray because they got Drew Brees, they got Michael Thomas, they got to sign Kamara. Eli Apple is the typical salary cap cut. I don't think he's going to make us great, but I'm happy to have a guy that's over 6 foot that has played in the NFL before.
Yeah.
And maybe could play his way into a contract.
Well, the only reason why I think you might be over excited about this is because, like you said, it is good that they traded for him and they signed him to a 1-year deal. But they signed him to a 1-year deal after that contract was over, right?
They never
like a 1-year
have any
deal.
money, Greg. They never have any
Well,
money for players.
I understand, but if he was worth it, wouldn't you think that they would invest some money into him? I mean, how do you know they didn't just sign him to a 1-year deal to be a stopgap? And that's not what we're doing as well.
Yeah,
I'm not saying he's going to be terrible.
And to echo Greg's sentiment, he led he was on the Saints the past 2 seasons in a row, right?
I'm not sure.
2 years in a row. 2 years in a row.
He led.
Well, he joined them maybe mid-season and then played another season.
And all the time he was with the Saints, he led the team in penalties.
Oh.
I'm not saying he can't be good. I'm really not. He could be a very good pickup. I'm not as optimistic about you because I feel like if he's as good as we feel like you feel like he might be, why would they even worry about letting him go? Why wouldn't you just sign him again?
Can I put a kind of what is it where you got to put a a exception on what I'm saying, like this
caveat?
Caveat. Thank you. Is that I'm not saying he's going to all of a sudden be a damn man-ass corner. Right? Like, all of a sudden, he's going to be like this guy that we're going to get for the next 5 years.
Right.
But it would be, look, he's got an opportunity to come in here and start. Right?
You think it's an improvement, obviously.
I would say it's a body that's not old.
Okay.
That has played reasonably well in the NFL. I'm not saying it's going to make us really, it's making us better more than it's making us worse.
Yeah.
Okay, I can live with that.
I mean, whatever, man. We're still gonna
he said, "Whatever, man." You must think nothing of Eli Apple.
And Michael Thomas.
Can we also
gonna torch us, bro?
Here's what I'll say though. Here's the thing that I'll point out. I feel like this is an indicator that there is not a intentional will to tank. Right,
6 wins.
Right, that it's not an intentional tanking year. I think we're going to do well? No, but there is not an intention of tanking. If it was the case, why sign a guy like him for 1 year?
Also, right? if you were planning on tanking, wouldn't that be what you would have wanted to look like? Because we're not intending on tanking this year. I mean, but
yeah,
you're right.
Really, that'd be the perfect
I don't think we can tank with this team
because, it's like, dude, again,
CPG says it's just depth. I say bullshit. I say it's not just depth. I bet you Eli Apple starts day one.
Yeah, he's going to be a starter.
Yeah, he is 100% the opposite corner of
Dante Jackson.
If Dante starts, right?
Well, we'll
that would mean a young guy would have to usurp him.
Either way, it's gonna suck. I want Dante to become a player. I hope this narrative of him being immature is unreasonable. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that he gets with people that instill, maybe put some new leadership in there. Sometimes people respond to different types of encouragement. You give Dante an encouragement that his mistakes are sort of from over enthusiasm. It might change his attitude from it being like you're shitting on me to like, maybe we can get, because I believe we saw him play very, very well. And the NFL sort of has this tendency to just give up on people very quickly. And I hope he can prove this stupid narrative wrong. Or not this narrative.
Look at what you were saying with Eli Apple and how the Giants were a dumpster fire. Sometimes I kind of feel bad for. I definitely feel bad for DJ. I feel bad for Curtis Samuel, and I feel bad for Dante Jackson.
I'm so
those guys.
Tired of y'all's Curtis Samuel's crying, man.
Dude, don't start. I will not right now, Tony Dunn, not right now. But that all those guys that were brought in at that period where Cam was in this health limbo and they kind of haven't really been in the best situation. It's like one of the things that we kept on saying last year was like, well, is Luke playing bad or is it just everyone around him is playing bad?
Right. But then he fucking retires. And then you're like, well, then we can't
every
tell.
Football player. So it's like, yeah, no shit. Dante Jackson is discouraged being on this football team. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of reasons why the Panthers were not a good team. And, you know,
going back, Cody, going back to the, what was that, Amazon show? Like, a little bit. Yeah, like, I know that the people have said, like, he's not, like, look at this. These guys are trying to mentor him.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if I really believe it entirely. Like, you might show that one little clip of them doing that.
I mean, he does seem to take exception to it. You know, after that.
Oh, yeah,
Dante
he does
Jackson.
not. Yeah, he did not like that. But we were missing some important people in that photo. Where was James Bradbury in that? Where was Ross Cockrell? Like, we only very saw this, like, two guys.
There's James or Mike Adams and then
Eric Reed and Mike Minter. And not Mike Minter. Mike, who was the guy that also was fighting with the coaches then? Little dude. He played nickel corner for us. Captain Munnerlyn.
Yeah, Captain. How can we forget Cap?
So, but what I'm saying is this: is that, like, that is a snapshot into the moment. But where is the real mentors? You know, is there real mentorship behind that? Is it just like? And we have always been critical of Ron's coaching staff and their ability to get more out of them. And maybe that's where the Matt Rule hype is all about. Is like, you know what? Is that like Ron Rivera can't work with Dante Jackson. He needs Captain Munnerlyn to talk him off the ledge. Well, Matt Rule's staff, they can get more out of that. Maybe that's the real storyline.
Yeah. I'm hopeful. Especially knowing that Matt Rule has turned around college programs. Like, you have to get young men to be motivated and play football, you know, and that's what the coach does. And I mean, again, man, like, it feels like we've been talking about Matt Rule forever and a day now.
I know. We haven't even seen him coach.
We haven't seen shit, man.
Not a single person has been able to actually do a press conference about him yet. Like, that's think about it from that perspective. Like, these guys, there hasn't been a press conference yet. I mean, outside of the Zoom things that they did. I'm just ready. So they've officially announced that Spartanburg is not going to be the training camp location this year because of everything going on. Is it going to be at the practice bubble? Is that the game plan?
Is the practice facility done yet? The one they're building in South Carolina?
No.
It can't.
No. That's like a 4-year project. Dude.
All right. So I heard there was some rumors that they were going to go to that place in West Virginia that the Saints go to.
The Greenbrier?
So you know why they're doing this, right? This is all from, they're saying all teams. If you travel for your training camp, you're not allowed to. So since the Panthers, their main,
their headquarters is still.
Yeah, their headquarters is here in Charlotte. So they can't even go, not even an hour and a half, 2 hours down the road.
Is that good? Maybe they get like a private training camp right in the bubble.
I don't know. I'll tell you what, though, man. If they're able to, I've never been to a Panthers training camp.
If they haven't been in Charlotte, I'm going.
Awful.
Yeah, dude. I'll meet you there, man. We'll fucking make it a day. That would be cool if they do it here. I kind of hope that they do it here.
Do you want me to give you the rundown of what training camp is like in Spartanburg, homie? It's very simple.
Hotter than Satan's asshole.
It is so hot and humid, always. And I'm from the South and the East. Like, we're kind of like it is. But for some reason, every time we're at training camp, it's just, like, more hot and humid than it should be. The other thing that's bizarre about training camp is that you expect, like, when you think of practices, like pro people, like, or people like
Like you
practice.
think 10 hours.
Yeah, right. You
Like-
think of all of this stuff. Yeah, you think of this. We're going to do the same thing. So, like, I coach my kids' basketball team. It's like, we're going to do layups and then, over again, layup.
Practice.
Yeah, we're practicing. In a NFL training camp, they go out there. It is an hour and 30 minutes or something like that. It's very short. Might even be less than that. It's like crazy. Maybe 2 hours. It's 2 hours tops. But it'll be like if you watch them work with the wide receivers, they run one route one time, each of them. And then they move on to the next thing. It is the least. It's so. That's when you realize how professional these dudes are. Is that we think these dudes are game planning so much and installing all this shit. They are a little bit, but when you watch it in practice, you're like, damn, these mugs are professional as stuff. Is that no wonder that kid didn't make the team. They only taught you to run the route one time. You missed the conversation. You off the team. It's insane. I say maybe it'll make it better to practice without the fans, but do not practice at Wofford. It is horrendous.
I mean, dude, anywhere you go from North Carolina all the way down to Georgia, it's hot as hell, dude. It's not the heat.
Man.
It's not the heat. It's the humidity,
Yep.
and it will kill you. It's abusive. And dude, my flesh is like paper. I mean, I burn like like paper.
I've
remember.
seen it. I've seen
Yeah, I know.
it.
There's video evidence of it on this very podcast. Look that one.
Well,
up.
look like a strawberry with a
Dude,
beard.
I looked like a radioactive crawfish. Yeah, that's dude, and that's what happens, bro. Like,
Wearing a Spider-Man suit.
it doesn't matter where you
And
go.
you were right ass in the sun the whole time. Like it wasn't
Dude.
even like that's the thing is they paraded your ass right on the. They might as well put a magnifying glass in front of where you're sitting.
Yeah, where I was sitting too.
Yeah, just
And
straight in the sun.
It crept up on you. Because, like, it wasn't really, really hot before. There was cloud cover. But, man, those clouds went away and holy fuck.
Everybody was burned, but you were a lobster.
Yeah, dude.
I do want to bring up a good point about us, like, kind of raving about the training camp not being in Warford
Yeah.
because of the
Spartanburg, South Carolina.
temperature.
Wofford.
You know, where are they going to practice at in Charlotte? I think who is it? David Warren says it in the chat. He says Charlotte's like 12 minutes north of there. Where are they going to like? Is it going to be that much different?
Right. That's a
you
good
know.
question. That's a fantastic question. So a lot of that's a really good point. So a lot of people think and believe that you could take this to like Boone, right? So you could try to upper
Ooh, okay,
elevation.
I'm an hour from there. I'll
Yeah.
do that. Yeah.
Like, and you get the elevation as a little bit as a help there.
Like what? Like practice at app or something?
Yeah,
App
yeah.
State?
I mean, look,
Okay.
I heard one guy talking on the radio, and he said there's this high school that has facilities that are comparable to D1 schools. Why don't you go there? Like, and it was like in the middle of the mountains. But we've heard the Greenbrier. In fact, I know they've reached out to the Panthers, and that's in West Virginia in the mountains. So yeah, it's like moving. But for some reason, Spartanburg, which is actually a cool, fun, they got like a fun little town. Like it's fun. Like I have a good time there.
Oh, yeah.
But for some reason, it's kind of like Columbia, South Carolina as well. Columbia is just like the hottest place it's just not. It's hotter than it should be.
It's oddly hot. Like it's one of the like you talk about. Like yes, there is very short. Like I'm not going to say very short, but Spartanburg is not a tremendous distance from Charlotte. But there is a difference. Like if you go from Spartanburg to Charlotte, there is a big difference in the actual the heat difference
On that day, right? Like on
yeah.
this day in history, we would be like, it's way hotter in Spartanburg.
Yeah. I mean, and you talk to the players, everybody talks about how hot Spartanburg is. They want to get back to Charlotte. It may not be that far of a drive, but there are certain places in this on this continent that are hotter than others, and there's not necessarily an explicit. There's probably some scientific explanation, but as far as like geographically speaking, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
And the players, the players hate it because they make them live in a dorm.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, what?
I always thought that had to
you mean
suck
for
so
2
much.
weeks you got to live in a dorm and make what minimum? What's the minimum for
Right,
practice
but
squad?
like, is it
Aw,
necessary?
poor guys.
I mean, we could say poor, but is it just necessary? Like, why
But the
wouldn't
part of
you
it-
just have it in Charlotte? And like,
Greg,
why
you-
couldn't you just
Hold
sleep
on,
in your
let's
own
also-
bed?
Let's also bring up the absurdity that the only reason why we were ever even doing it at Wofford was because that's where Jerry Richardson went
Right,
to
Yes,
college.
right.
Like,
yes.
And
that is
I'm sure
very
it had the
good
South
point.
Carolina thing too.
yeah,
You know?
and
And he
yeah,
slept
so-
in a dorm, and he went to training camp in 9,000 degrees, and he grabbed girls' butts on
Yeah.
his
You
You want
ride,
everybody to be a
man.
foot
But
rubber,
it's
huh?
like, Greg, I understand what you're saying. Like, these dudes are millionaires. Or, I mean, not all of them, but a lot of them are making ridiculous amounts of money. Who cares
Right.
who cares if it's 2 weeks? My thought of it is like this though. Like, are other teams having to do this? Like college dorm bunk bed bullshit? Like, dude, imagine if you worked for the team. Like, you would just want to be comfortable, man. Being able to go to your own
Well, like,
home,
you
your
don't
own
need
bed.
to, like,
Yeah,
you
but
don't
that's
need
some
to
serious
be the
first world
Marriott,
problem,
but like,
man.
why
Oh,
couldn't
but
you
it was
just sleep
Boy
in your own
Scouts now,
bed?
we're going
Well,
camping.
no, we're not Boy Scouts, but dude, I'm saying you got guys in the military that are making $28,000 a year to spend 3 months out in the field. Come on, seriously. Like you can spend if you're making
Right. But here, how about
$80,000
this? What
year,
if I
can
made
spend
you,
2 weeks in a dorm room,
Greg,
which has air
what about
conditioning, you
this?
get meals. Come on.
What if there was an ability for you to do your job in the military, and they were like, no, like you could sleep over here in this like regular house, and they were like, no, you're in the military, you gotta sleep outside in the tent. Like, is it necessary? I'm not saying that other people don't do shit that's crazy. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying what they're asking them to do is crazy. Is it necessary? Is the question. And then,
Right, they can do it, but should they be? It's
yeah.
Well, what's wrong
and
with a
here
dorm
is
room?
that
Like-
if we
like-
really want to talk about the pussification of training camp, let's not talk about where they're sleeping. Let's talk about the two-a-days. Let's talk about people breaking freaking and giving people concussions in practices. They used to full-on tackle. So, like, if we're really worried about what bed they sleep in, we should be talking about what they're doing on the field. They ain't tackling. They wearing these little hats that's like this and that. It's all like, it's
like
like,
calling them bitch. It's so bitch.
yeah.
You make it sound like it's just the bitchiest thing ever.
It's true though. And here,
They're out there slapping each other's asses.
yes, it's
playing
true
hack
because
and
I've
sack.
talked to here. Let's go back as I got this secret hidden archive on the C3 Panthers podcast. It's called "Where's That Cat Now?" I've talked with about 6 players. The most notorious story is I had one of the best conversations I've ever had in my life. It went on for like an hour and a half with Mike Minter. And it only recorded my side of the conversation. It's the most embarrassing moment in my whole life. But I've talked with several former players who played in the 90s, and they were beating each other's asses on that field. You know, like, I mean, breaking jaws, giving... So, look, it's like, yeah, could it be like, oh, these poor guys, they get to sleep in the dorm. But, like, hey, they don't even tackle in practice anymore, so give them their damn Marriott.
So we're gonna make it so easy. We might as well just make it, even easier.
How about we just make it free? Like, free America. Like, if you can make it to practice at 10 a.m., I don't give a hell
be there.
where
Yeah,
you sleep.
But look,
Yeah, you
what,
can
David-
sleep on that wood pallet over there, or you can sleep with your wife tonight.
David Warren in the chat has the same kind of sentiment I think about this, and he's saying a 2-week training camp should be like boot camp. You're exactly right. You're supposed to separate yourself from the world for 2 weeks to focus on this. You get woken up. You have a bed to sleep in. You have facilities to work out in. You have food. I guarantee you they are not hurting by any means. They probably have more amenities in the dorms and training camps than they do in hotels.
Oh, yeah. You see these guys bring in some crazy stuff when they go.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, I mean, I think that's a better team building exercise is separate yourself from the world for 2 weeks.
Okay.
Don't focus on being with the
how
team,
about we do that in the mountains of Colorado or the mountains
I agree. We should do it somewhere else.
Like, why do we got to do that in this college dormitory where they're trying to get classes ready in 2 weeks?
How would you feel about if they did something like that? They went to the mountains of Colorado. Would you want? I mean, I almost would see that as an opportunity to plan a vacation.
What if they did, like, what if they said this team building exercise? We're going to Carolina Panthers go to Alaska and try to become gold miners. It will make you the strong, or join the French Foreign Legion for 8 weeks.
Or ice road truckers.
That's good. That was very good. Yeah, I mean, like, is that what it is? Is it meant to, like, be this moment, like, where we break you and build you up? Is that what training camp is?
I think so. I really do.
I mean,
don't read the NFL,
but not training. Training practice.
Training come when you want to, if you can make it.
Don't read the NFLPA then, if you want it to be like that. Mike Leach can't stuff nobody in a closet to teach them a lesson. Wasn't that Mike Leach that did that in Texas Tech or whatever? Got in trouble.
There's a lot of those horror stories out there.
Well, adding to that kind of thing that I was saying about separating for 2 weeks is a big part of a successful team is brotherhood and camaraderie. And, you look at all the successful teams that make it to the, Super Bowl or deep in the playoffs yearly, they have a great team chemistry. Look at the Panthers in 2015. We, by far didn't have the most talent in the league, by any stretch of the imagination, but we were confident and we had camaraderie, and that's the kind of stuff you're trying to build in training camp, I think. All
right, so if it's a team building exercise, I'm all for it.
Yeah. Right?
Like, so if that's like the thing is like, but maybe it's not a college dormitory. We need to do it at. Like, let's put them on Paris Island then.
So you'll send your kids to live in a college dormitory, but you wouldn't let an NFL player stay there for 2 weeks.
No, I'm not saying don't let them. Maybe it's just not the best place. Maybe it's not even if that team building masculine exercise is so important, then let's make it tougher. Let's send them to Paris Island.
I mean,
is that Paris Island? Where the Marines go? Where do the Marines go to train?
I mean, I have a few.
It's Paris Island. I think that's where their boot camp's at. Angel Island.
Send them to Guantanamo.
Right. Like if that is what is meant to do.
Let's see how tough it really gets out there.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not saying that, but
Chinese
Guantanamo
prison.
Bay and I mean that's a far stretch from a dorm room in a college. I mean, come on.
But why don't we just do it somewhere else?
We're going all the way, man.
That's my point.
Lock their asses up when they're not on the training camp.
I don't
when
think.
They're not on the field.
I think our point is this, or my point, Greg, is like it's not that it's too like Spartan. It's not like the conditions are too Spartan for Spartanburg. There's some irony there, right? It's just the fact. Just this is like, why can't we do the same thing in the not hottest fucking place on the planet?
I get that.
Like, let's do that at West Virginia's college then. Okay.
I'm cool with it. I'd definitely go to that one.
Yeah. See, I can agree with you on the moving because of the temperature. I disagree about moving because of the conditions of it being warm. But we,
so miserable. And they always hold practices right in the middle of the sun. It's like, when can we find the hottest part of the day? We'll do it.
Here's the thing, though. If they had it up here at Greenbrier, you guys would be able to come up and stay.
How close is that to you? How close is that?
Here, I'll tell you. Give me a second.
I wanted to point this out. I want to ask this question. I'll start with Cody as CK looks that up. Do you think there's any advantage in having this kind of young, youthful coaching group, right? Joe Brady, Matt Rule, right? The younger generation, more familiar with technology, this type of thing. You know, we talk about the experience that the old hats have and the understanding they have with the game, but are they behind the eight ball a little bit, i.e. Ron Rivera? Do you think maybe there's something to that these younger, more technologically integrated coaching staffs may be able to adapt to this climate a little bit better than the old hats?
Oh, yeah. Dude, especially because Ron Rivera didn't know his way around the computer at all. Like, that someone had to help him do shit around the computer. But listen, dude, when you have a set of young coaches and we're doing all of this, because of Corona, everyone's doing the online meetings now. Like, I mean, I'm happy that not even for technology's sake or purpose, just the fact that we have young coaches that are coming into this for the first time with all these young players. Everyone's new to it, so everyone can kind of learn on the fly together rather than it being this process of Ron Rivera trying to now figure out how to do a training camp that's not at Wofford and all these other
stale-ass PowerPoints.
Yeah. Something that
power and commitment.
I feel
power and commitment. Stupid PowerPoints, man.
Innovative here, and I feel like our coaches, it's gonna. And listen, man, and I know we have Panther fans that disagree. That's why I don't really care if this next season it'll be tough to go through. But even if we're terrible next season, like this is a learning year for everyone. So if you're gonna have a bad year, it might as well be this one. But just because we have so many new players, we have so many new coaches, Greg, you think I'm just talking about wanting the quarterback?
You can't even say it without smiling.
No, because I'm not even saying Trevor. There's like there are two other. We might as well get a franchise quarterback out of it, regardless of if it's Trevor. And even if, but like what you're saying though. If we end up being a 6-win team, 6-win, 7-win, like, I don't know, man. Maybe that's a sign of, good things to come. But maybe it's also well, I know that's what I'm saying, though. It's like that perpetual mediocrity and having, like, just missing out on the pick that you want in the draft because you won a few too many pointless games, Like, that's why right now I have no idea what this team is going to be this year. But I don't think that they have a ton of pressure on them because it's hard to put expectations on this 2020 team.
Look, I have my win-loss record from a few weeks ago when we were writing down who's going to win-loss. So just saw that earlier. I was like, oh, okay.
So, look, this is like the seventh thing that Greg has highlighted during this show that says, Tony, you sound a lot like a 6-win guy. You know what I'm saying? Now I'm talking about the adaptability of younger coaches versus older coaches in the COVID climate. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to do with things. Is that these teams, I'm kind of interested in, like, what does that look like? I wonder what they're doing right now. They always tell us we're working hard, things are going great. I hear it for every program. I hear it at the ECU any program. Like, what are you gonna say? Well, we've been frustrated today. I mean, I don't think
it's gonna work out this year, guys.
Yeah, it's going great for every team in the NFL. I wonder what it really is like. Like,
I wonder if anybody has a conversation within their organization that's like, I don't know how we're doing this. I don't get it.
Let me ask you, how many teams do you think realistically in the year go in before the preseason starts, like going through training camp, thinking we have a shot to make a push for a Super Bowl this year, like percentage wise, 32 teams.
Yeah,
I say
30.
There's probably
let's say 30%.
I'd say there's probably about 8 teams that realistically go into a season saying, okay, I've got a shot to win a Super Bowl this year?
I think it's much higher than that. I think when you think about coaches and the pedigree that they come from, I think that there is a much higher expectation of success. I think that they believe that they have the capability to build a team up. I'm not saying that realistically they have a
Very
shot.
good point.
But I think that they can't do that job and not believe they have a shot. That's just not reality. Like, it just, again, and that is simply my opinion. There is probably more than I anticipate that come into a season. Like, I don't know how this is going to work. Like there is, but I imagine that if anybody had an opportunity to feel that way, it would have been Ron Rivera when Kelvin Benjamin tore his ACL that, in 2015. I know we bring that up a lot, and I'm going to make it a resolution to try to avoid bringing 2015 up, just because I think that using that as a measuring stick isn't fair to anybody.
Are we getting tired of it, guys?
Yeah,
it's so exhausting.
Yeah, but to speak to that, but he still was able to pull out a win with no name receivers outside of Greg Olsen. A patchwork offensive line where we ended up having to get Michael Orr in. There was a lot of question marks with that. I mean, I know we still had a defense that was considered good. We had an unproven at that point, Josh Norman. So we didn't really have a secondary that you would consider was high class. I mean, let's be honest. We had Coleman. We had Josh Norman. We had Benet Ben Wickery. We had who else? We had Peanut.
Yep, Peanut Tillman. We got Jared Allen that year. You're right.
Yeah,
maybe you should be in the fifth. Maybe it should be higher. Maybe you're flipping me the other way. Is that maybe it's 8 out of 10 teams think they can win every year?
That's what I feel. Okay. I mean, barring the Miami situation last year, the Cincinnati situation last year. But I mean, even Cincinnati probably had hope going into the year last year.
So you're kind of on the opposite end. You think there's probably about 8 teams that don't go into a season that feel like they can have a chance to win it, which it could be true. I mean, I really have no idea. I'm trying to think about it. I'm going through every division in my head, and like NFC East, like I'm willing to bet the Eagles and the Cowboys both thought they had a chance last year, but the Giants and the who's the other team in that division? Giants and
Redskins, Cowboys, Philadelphia.
Yeah, they probably had no thought they had a chance. In the NFC South, I'm willing to bet the Saints thought they had a chance, but I don't think the Falcons, the Panthers, or the
man, we had a chance.
I can't say that.
Going into
the
season,
did.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, going into the season. We had Cam Newton healthy.
We thought it was going to be all this and that.
So maybe a half team. I can see about half in every division.
All right. You know what? The truth lies somewhere in the middle, right? That's what we've learned tonight. All right. It's the C3 Panthers podcast. It's gone on and on and on, and we haven't even done the damn cat calls. I think I have them somewhere in here. Guys, actually, I do have them. I don't know if I've exported them yet. So you talk for a second while I export this file. Wait, actually, Cody, carry the show.
Yeah. All right, dude, I'm going to carry the show with my big ass biceps.
You missed last week. You deserve to pick up some damn slack.
Yeah, man. Me and Tony are going to go take a break. You guys handle it from here.
Fine, dude. Hey, this show is about, did you know farts are like the ghost of the foods that you've eaten?
What? Now you sound like Pauly Shore.
Hey, you asked me to carry it. You didn't say
Here's the C3 Panthers podcast. Cat calls, the number 252-228.
So what are your thoughts on cat calling?
Yeah, it's pretty you shouldn't do that to somebody.
And how did that make you feel?
Really? We did so
how
much
do you think
better
cat
than
calling
that
makes
last
the person feel?
It feels good, like
who's that cat sitting in the back corner with his face buried in his nose? Who's that kid that can use one?
Too loud or something, homie?
Sounds good to me.
Welcome to the No News Carolina. What a crappy place.
I said no news, Carolina.
What a huge disgrace.
This is a good call. This is Joey Escobar. I know it. The Blind Panther. That's the blind Panther right there. Joey Esquivel, my man. All right, next call. I think. I bet you this is going to be Rich.
Hi guys, Rich here in the UK.
Yes, my man.
Thought last week was slow for Panthers news. Couple of things I thought I'd bring up though. First one was PFF ranked the Panthers wide receivers as the 8th best unit in the NFL. I thought that was something worth noting. It came out.
Wow, that's pretty high.
Yeah, so there's a bit of hope.
Not really,
there.
in my opinion.
And generally not too bad. And then the second thing was I heard the Matt Rule interview on the Around the NFL podcast, which you've probably seen, or some of you have probably seen.
Love that
he
podcast.
actually spoke much better this time. Quite like what he had to say. He's clearly all in on Teddy Bridgewater. I will say for Teddy Bridgewater, if he's accurate, that'll help. I mean, he's no Cam, and I don't think I'll ever forgive the organisation for the way they've treated Cam. But I'm not an anti-Teddy person. I just think that, he might do good things with Curtis and DJ, dropping the ball off to them in space. If he can make passes, short passes that they run onto. I mean, those guys at full stride running onto the ball where they don't have to stop and they don't have to adjust. I mean, that is something that could be, and CMC and Ian Thomas. It could be quite exciting. Okay, right. Well, that's enough of the sport. Can I just wish everybody, I hope you all stay safe and good luck. Obviously, as a big Americanophile and having lived there, and my sister lives in the US, I'm acutely aware of everything that's going on. And I'm very concerned that when you're out and about, that's not just protesting. I think, Twitter is revealing some rather dark forces behind some of what's going on. And so, if you do go out there, I had a little chat with Nova Black on Twitter earlier today. And guys, just stay safe and good luck. And I hope the situation resolves itself for the better. That'll probably be in November. All right, guys, take care, and I'll check in with you next week. Keep pounding.
Very good. Very good call. Strong.
Appreciate that, Rich. I really do, man.
Strong call. Are you surprised that the Panthers receiving core is 8th?
No, not at all.
Lies. You liar. Okay.
I'm not.
No, I'm not
Dude,
surprised.
I cannot.
And we're gonna have this fight about Curtis Samuel one way or another,
Right.
and it's gonna be brutal, dude. You keep on wanting to shit on Curtis Samuel, but Curtis Samuel has not had the quarterback to be able to get him the football on those stretch plays.
How many times have we seen him wide open and the ball is 10 feet
Y'all
over
are
his
the
head?
biggest homers in the world.
Take that out of
You're
the
the
equation.
biggest homers in the world.
It's
Let's
not
look
about
at
being a homer.
Let's look
It
at DJ
is.
Moore. He was a top 10 wide receiver last year.
I don't care. I'll tell you this.
With-
Listen to
with
this.
Kyle Allen.
You guess the teams that are ahead of the Panthers. Guess them.
You're gonna have the Bucks clearly.
All right.
I would say the Bucks. You're gonna have. I don't. The Saints. Taquan Smith and everything.
Yeah.
Then you're gonna have Atlanta.
Nope.
No.
Nope.
Where are they at?
LA Rams.
This is where this shit is crazy, dude. They're 13th.
LA Rams, Cleveland Browns.
I'm gonna say
Nope.
Tennessee
Nope.
Titans.
Kansas City Chiefs have to be
Yes, the Kansas City
Kansas
Chiefs.
Chiefs.
Tyreek Hill, rare speed. This is it. This is the PFF article. I pulled it up.
Arizona Cardinals.
Nope.
Yeah, what?
How are the Cardinals not on there?
aren't
Cardinals
on there.
are. Hold on. Let me find them. They're 12th. Come on.
Dude, that is-
this is all
that is-
bullshit. Like here, let me just read. This is why I like that's why I'm the opposite. This is number.
This is terrible. No
listen
doubt.
to this. Number 1, Tampa Bay. Number 2, Kansas City. Number 3 is Dallas with
Hell yeah. I was
CD
gonna say, if
Lamb
they're not top 5,
and
there's no
Amari
recall.
Cooper. Oh,
Yes.
they got Michael Gallup, which is a good addition. If they got
Gallup.
him,
Well, they had Gallup last year.
oh,
But
who
not
am
yet.
I thinking that? Who's the guy from Detroit?
They
I'm
just
thinking
picked up CJ Lamb or CD
You're
Lamb.
thinking about Hearns, right?
Maybe no, not Hearns. I'm
Yeah, because he
thinking
was there.
there's some. All right, so look, number 4 is the Saints. Michael
Yep.
Thomas, and who else?
Oh, Golden Tate. That's who they picked up. Right?
Emmanuel Sanders.
Emmanuel Sanders.
But come on, you're trying to tell me
yeah.
you really believe that the New Orleans Saints wide receiver core is better than Atlanta's? I don't.
I wouldn't.
No, I think it's better than Atlanta's.
I don't. I think Julio and that guy that
Calvin Ridley.
Ridley, yeah.
All right, so here, number 5 is the Buffalo Bills. All right, I'll give you that. Stephon Diggs.
Stephon Diggs is the only receiver.
John Brown. They got John Brown and Cole Beasley.
John Brown is nothing. Like, he basically just runs fast. That's it.
Dude, this is the guy I was thinking about. This was the guy I was thinking about.
Curtis Samuel, though.
Kenny Galladay. No. Yes, I agree.
Yeah,
I think the Panthers.
Thank you. I'm glad you brought Detroit.
I think the Panthers should be like 18 or 19. I'm not saying they're bad. I just don't. Here, all right. How about this?
Robbie Anderson.
Okay. All right. Good point. Kenny Galladay and Marvin Jones Jr.
That's a great
for Detroit.
Great tandem.
Right. Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm. And they got Danny Amendola. They then put, I think should be higher on the list, to be honest, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams for the Chargers.
Should be higher.
They're 7. Then the Panthers. But listen to this. The Cleveland Browns have Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry, and they're after us? Psh.
Yeah,
but what did they do, though?
What about Seattle?
Odell is alone.
DK Metcalf.
Yeah, then it goes Denver Broncos. How about this? Cincinnati Bengals are number 11. Number 12. This is the shame of the century. Is DeAndre's just got shat on by the NFL.
But they have Larry Fitzgerald, DeAndre Hopkins,
Christian Kirk,
talented pass catcher back there too.
Christian Kirk,
Christian Kirk. That's what it was.
All right. So fine, Larry's done. But here, another travesty.
Larry's done.
I think so, man. I just don't see him putting up another year. I don't see him putting up another phenomenal year. He'll be a solid player.
Did you see him? You know why his career is continuing to go on is because he is one of the smartest players when it comes to taking hits. He doesn't take hits.
He also went from the X and the Y to the slot because he realized that was going to extend his career. He's very smart. He's a phenomenal player. I love Larry Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
I just feel like this is the year he's like Greg Olsen was. He's solid. I'll take him, but he's kind of got that dad run. I don't know how.
He's had the dad run for 4 years, bro. No, I'm with you.
He's been great for like 25 years.
Yeah, I'm with you, Greg. I'm with you.
Because if that wasn't true, they wouldn't have traded for DeAndre Hopkins. That's their number one.
Exactly. There you go.
That's their guy now. So Larry Fitz is just a role player. They're hoping,
and that's fine. He's got the best hands in the world. He's got the best hands in the world. He runs sharp routes. But the point is this. Don't shit on DeAndre Hopkins. You want to act like Stephon Diggs is the best motherfucker that ever walked the earth?
DeAndre, any day.
I would take DeAndre over Stephon.
Any day. So DeAndre Hopkins, I think, is the best wide receiver in the NFL. Yeah, I really do.
And people shat on him last year. They shat all over him. The Houston Texans shat all over him. And the Arizona Cardinals got a gym.
Who made that? Who made that list?
Yeah, PFF. So
imagine having the Buffalo Bills, who only have legitimately one good wide receiver right now,
and above the Atlanta Falcons,
above the Falcons, above the Browns, above the Cardinals.
What that tells you? Think about this though. That's basically them saying Stephon Diggs is better than Julio Jones.
No, that's telling you draft Josh Allen in your fantasy league.
We know that's false. Like I would put Stephon Diggs in his prime again, which we don't even. It might have already been. To be honest, I think we may have seen we're at the apex of what Stephon Diggs is.
I mean, honestly,
I do think Stephon's a beast.
Yeah, he's good, but Julio is a game. He is not Julio, homie.
No, not even.
He's like Amari Cooper. That's like saying Amari Cooper and Julio are the same, and it's just not true.
Well, you got to ask yourself, was Stephon Diggs ever even the best receiver on his team? Because Adam Thielen is a beast.
I know, that's a good point.
And how much did he benefit from having Adam Thielen?
They kept Adam Thielen, so he may not even be the best receiver on his team. He's damn good. I would take him in a heartbeat,
Well, yeah, exactly. I feel the same
not
way.
nearly the best in the NFL.
I do not feel. I feel like he's very, very good, but I don't know if he's a guy that I would build a franchise around. He's not Randy. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not the same. He ain't no Randy Moss, homie.
I can tell you this though. I do think the Panthers have a badass receiving core. Yeah. I was critical on DJ Moore's route running. I do think it's gotten better. But Curtis Samuel, I think has been another player that, he had injuries early at the start of his career. Now he's had a broken down Cam Newton and Kyle Allen just underthrowing every football. Like I'm telling you, if Curtis Samuel was on the Green Bay Packers, Tony would not say anything bad about or on the Kansas City Chiefs or on another team with the quarterback. Curtis Samuel is one of the most underutilized receivers in the NFL. If you look at what he does, he's a route runner. He's fast as hell. He's a burner down the field. He could have been Cam Newton's version of Tyreek Hill.
I have been on record when we drafted Curtis Samuel. I thought we could have almost drafted Curtis Samuel as Christian McCaffrey, kind of. So I've always been in his corner. My whole point is that at some point, like I'm so tired of hearing what it could be. And that's my point with
got
this.
That with Devin Funchess. We've got that with Kelvin Benjamin. We had that with a lot. I mean, Ian Thomas up to this point. I mean, we're still dealing with that with a lot of the people on the roster that haven't even hit their 5th-year option yet.
And to give it's not Curtis's fault. But to pin the Carolina Panthers at the 8th best receiving core right now, it's a little rich, right?
Yeah,
it's a little rich, and I like a lot of the things. If this is projected best, maybe. But I mean, I want Curtis Samuel to be that dude. I drafted him in the 3rd round. I thought he was gonna be that dude.
I did too. I thought he was going to do something that was gonna. But again, that's when we thought Cam was going to be there.
Right? Yeah.
Well, that's when we thought that deep ball was going to be back because Cam Newton was throwing some nice deep balls in training camp. That's when we thought that we had the offensive line was going to start working its way out, work out a little bit. Because, I mean, we were excited. Like, they re-signed Darrell Williams. I know we only had one great year from him, but we were like, hey, we got that. And then we have this brand new tackle. And so there was a lot of things that showed that, hey, maybe we're going to have enough protection in the pocket for Cam to be able to get the ball down deep. And then what we had was one of the worst offensive lines. We had a quarterback that was too afraid to hold the ball long enough to get the ball downfield, and when he did,
non-existent Curtis Samuel.
Yeah,
right, and it might not be his fault. It might not be his fault, but it just wasn't there. Here's the point:
when he got the
go back to this podcast 18 months ago, Cody, and we're sitting here talking about how Curtis Samuel is going to be the better receiver on the team than DJ Moore, confidently. Every single person probably was like that. It's like, watch out. It's going to happen. So the point is, and CK's right on the money, is not only all this bad shit was going on, but he also was a non-factor in our offense. Whether that's his fault or not, it just is the reality.
Well, it was a non-factor, but I think you also got to look at what his I know this is something you don't want to hear, but his potential. You remember 2 years ago, I know he got hurt that year, but he was on track for one of the best touchdown to touch ratios in the history of the NFL.
Yeah, he got a touchdown like on every 4 carries. It was something crazy. Like, you gave him the ball 4 times and there was a touch. He played like 9 plays and had 5 touchdowns. It was insane.
But the problem is that those touchdowns were incredible. Like, they weren't just touchdowns. They weren't just like, there might be one, but like the one I allude to is that the one I think from the Giants. I think it was a Giants game, and he broke every tackle.
Yeah.
And then he did that little weird dive into the end zone at the end that made it kind of all look really odd. But man, it was an incredible play. And I think that at that point in time, our hopes for him went up. But the problem is their offense changed. And then he was then expected to be the deep ball threat. Well, we had no deep ball, right?
Yeah,
and
it
so
was
our
so
offense
off.
is predicated
It was
around
so
having
off.
somebody clear out the box.
Well, let me ask you real quick. Do you think that part of our reason for having such a high ranking, because I do think you're making valid points about Curtis Samuel. I think he can be a great receiver. Do you think it has to do with the fact that we have a running back that caught 20 less passes than the NFL record for a wide receiver last year? Do you think they're taking that into consideration for the passing game?
Yeah, that's what I said. We had a quarterback who was too afraid to hold on to the ball long enough to get the ball downfield. That's why you saw those receptions going to Christian McCaffrey. I mean, when you have a security blanket like that, I mean, why do you not take it?
I want y'all to be cautious of what Cody is saying. And Cody's over there. Yeah,
saying.
Yeah, and that's like, we're so. I feel like we fell in love with these dark. I want Curtis Samuel to be great.
We wanted Demir.
But again, Tony,
I'm not ready to pay him, homie. Homeboys want to pay him. You listen to that. What's that asshole's name on Twitter?
But that's a whole other different.
What's the asshole's name on Twitter that puts up Billy Marshall and all this kid? Yeah, he wants to pay him. Like, pay him. Do you think that is...
Wait, pay Curtis?
Yeah, he wants to. He's like, if he doesn't get a multi-year deal right now, he's an idiot. The Panthers in. That's bullshit. I think
but Tony, what does the film say?
It said this, is that you've had some injuries, you've had some moments where you've had some explosive plays, and you had a season last year that was unremarkable on an unremarkable team. On an unremarkable team. But I'm not saying he doesn't deserve any money. I'm just saying this is why in the hell would you extend a 5'0" player who weighs 180 pounds soaking wet in a period of rebuild?
Tell that to Tyreek Hill. And this is
he plays on the Chiefs. He plays on the Chiefs. The Panthers don't.
How many times? Right. Okay. And the difference between Patrick Mahomes and a crippled Cam Newton and a Kyle Allen is a night and day difference. If you see that Curtis Samuel, like, it's one thing if we're talking about him dropping passes and running the
Make him play his final year. Make him play his final year. What's wrong with making Curtis Samuel play his year?
And then how about the time that the times when he did have the ball in his hand, he's making people miss. He's swerving, doing the end around plays. Like, listen, I understand that you don't want to pay Curtis Samuel all the money in the world.
He's under contract for 2020 for this year. Why in the world even extend anybody based on potential? Say this is the team is under duress. Sorry, homie, you got drafted to a shit ass team with a shit ass quarterback. I'm sorry, but I ain't paying your ass nothing until after this season, homie. Like, nothing.
Yeah, I mean,
like, you're getting your contract. That's my position.
I'm not saying to pay him now. I'm not saying you have to write off a new contract to make sure he doesn't go anywhere else. What I'm saying is that, again, man, he's kind of been a victim to the circumstances.
Maybe.
He is a deep ball receiver who runs excellent routes, who routinely gets open, even when he's in press man coverage, and he will haul ass down the field. I've found him on Twitter. There are montages of Curtis Samuel screaming wide open, and then
I know, and they're all made by Billy. They're all made by Billy Marshall.
No,
yes, they are. 99% of them made by Billy
Marshall. This is not a propaganda piece, Tony.
Yeah,
it's just the truth, man.
I mean,
we're all watching the same clips.
Statistics, and we can look it up if we need to.
Same clips. Look it up.
Of how,
and I would say
how often what his separation is from coverage. Like, that's
is it from PFF?
There's plenty of places that have separation.
Yeah, let's talk about how PFF is awesome with these wide receiver tandems. While we're at it,
well,
my point is I'm so sick of this idea that we owe. We're in a rebuild. We don't owe no one shit. And I'm sorry you're a victim of circumstance, but so was Ben Wickery. Ben Wickery was a good football player that we asked to cover Julio Jones man on man after he was coming off a major leg injury, that the coaching staff then went and threw under the bus for being overweight and out of shape. And you're like, this mug is 5'10". You asked Captain Munnerlyn ultimately to man up Julio Jones for a game, and he burnt you. Yes, he burnt his ass for 300 yards, but what the hell do you expect? And what I'm saying with Curtis Samuel is this, is that I hope he becomes the greatest fucking receiver in the world, but we would be dumb to pay him right now. Period. Let him go to another team and be great then.
I mean, yeah. Yes and no.
Let him play this year at least. Let him play this year at least.
Look, I just want to put it in perspective. Like, a few weeks ago, we were talking about tanking, about Carolina definitely tanking. And now, a few weeks later, we're talking about the argument of the 8th best wide receiver core. And I look at I'm writing stuff down, and it looks like we have, on paper, the best offensive line, the best wide receiver core, and the best running back of the last.
Should I go ahead and pay you now, Greg?
Of the last 12 years. You know, which means that we have a better situation around Teddy Bridgewater right now than we ever had around Cam Newton.
Oh, my gosh. I might as well just pay Greg right now.
Yeah. Just saying, hey, like I said, I plant those seeds, and then I just let it grow and let everybody eat off it. And
here, let's play this next call. Cody, cover it, and we got to get the hell out of here. We got a couple more.
How y'all doing? It's G Cavassier.
What's up, G?
Before I say anything, y'all please be careful. Y'all seen the news. Y'all been on the internet. This world is in chaos right now. It really is.
Yeah.
And it seems like every day people are tearing shit up, burning shit up or whatever, you know, and it's really heartbreaking and it's embarrassing to this country. I ain't trying to get political, nothing like that, but understand this. I've been black a long time. I've been black for 42 years, y'all. You know what I'm saying? So just please, all of you guys, please be careful. Now, the reason why I called is I saw something yesterday. It says something about Luke's contract, and maybe Cody can elaborate on this when it comes to contracts or whatever. They were saying like some money's gonna get freed up or whatever. I don't know if it's gonna be today or tomorrow, but people are saying with the extra money we got, we should you know what I'm saying, we should sign Clowney, you know. And my thing is, I think we're okay. I really don't want this dude. He's a good football player. He's a hell of a damn defensive end, and he can play, you know, outside linebacker, but I really don't want that dude to come to Carolina because, I don't know, something just doesn't seem right. So give me guys' thoughts on that, and always remember, y'all, keep pounding.
Keep pounding.
Keep pounding. Thanks for the call, G. Yeah, Greg, go ahead.
I was going to say, I 100% agree with you. Although Clowney sounds like a great player, he is, I would say, somewhat proven because he's very injury prone. I think that with Gross Patos and Burns on the other side, I don't think that is where, if we're going to focus on a big free agent, that shouldn't be it. Yeah, I mean, we could utilize that money in a lot of other places. I think that we're pretty good on the defensive line right now. I'm very happy with. But we got Derek Brown too, right? We got Derek Brown, KK coming back, Gross Matos on one side, Burns on the other. I think we could have one of the best defensive lines in the NFL next year.
I do too.
Not the best, but we could have one of the best, maybe top 5.
I mean, even if it's not next year, I mean, this has the making of a vicious defensive line for years to come. And then people also forget we still have names like Christian Miller. We still have names like Marquise Haynes, F.A. Obada still floating around the roster. Like, we have guys on the roster that are going to be able to come in and fill that kind of pass rushing outside linebacker role. We already have those dudes. So And yeah, say it, man. Yeah, Jadeveon Clowney is kind of overrated. He hasn't really been, worth the first pick in the draft. He had a bunch of injury concerns. They never could get him and J.J. Watt healthy at the same time when he played for Houston. And really, as an edge player, he doesn't have a lot of bend. I mean, they basically use him more effectively as like a blitzer on inside stunts and shit like that. So,
right.
Really, in my mind, I'm not breaking the bank for Clowney, especially after the Browns were going to pay him. And he was like, nah, bro, I don't want to go to Cleveland. Like, dude, how conceited are you, man? If someone agrees to pay you millions of dollars to go play, dude, if someone's paying me millions of dollars to go play football when no other team is knocking at my door.
Yep. Here comes Greg. Hey, you just said if somebody's gonna pay you millions of dollars, you would uproot your life and move. You wouldn't go to training camp for 2 weeks in a dorm? If somebody's
You're damn right. I am not a child.
You wouldn't go to training camp for 2 weeks?
You're damn right. I am not a child.
All right. You ready? You want to hear a crazy stat from last year, Tony?
Let's hear it. It's like Curtis Samuel is the greatest receiver in the world.
Yep.
62% of Curtis Samuel's targets were catchable.
That's
No, it's a stat that they're 62% of Curtis Samuel's targets are catchable. That was the lowest rate of the 26 wide receivers who saw at least 100 targets.
I believe it.
I can believe that stat. I just have a problem with. I think defining a catch as catchable is that's an opinion,
right?
It's like pass interference, I guess there can be kind of lines that are a bit blurry. But
to be fair, they're also using those same opinions on the other players.
Yeah.
So if he's still
as
got
long
the
as there's a
lowest
standard,
Okay. No, in some ways, who is it from PFF?
No, this is Panthers Wire today.
Where did they get it from? So the one thing I do know this, and look, I like PFF. I don't think that I don't think they're the Bible.
No,
but what they do is I know someone who works for PFF as like a part-time, he covers the Raiders. Mm-hmm. He actually is probably one of the more qualified people to do it because he's a kinesiologist. Is that what it is? Like you study body movements and stuff?
Yeah.
But really, it's not the most scientific process. It is and it isn't. Like, they ask him to watch all the snaps for wide receivers, and he kind of has to make a judgment. So there is some subjectivity into it. It's not 100% scientific. In this case, I think he's one of the more qualified people to do it. But here's the thing. With Curtis Samuel, if he is this so awesome, then again, it's 100% on the coaching staff that you only use him as a deep threat. Like, you just got to get him in the game, right? Isn't that our mantra with Christian McCaffrey? Is like he's great as a receiver, he's great as this or great as that. Like you have to work him into the game plan. Ultimately, then, if you guys are right, in which we may find out, maybe Curtis Samuel is the next fucking awesome thing in the whole world. But it's largely an indictment if you guys are right on the coaching staff for not finding ways to get him more easily involved. See, that's the thing with Tyreek Hill is like not every play is the least probable play in the world. Yes, Patrick Mahomes is fantastic in throwing the deep ball. But if you had somebody like that, you're like, we're getting their ass the ball. And if our quarterback can't do it that way, we're going to find a different way to do it.
And they tried for a little while. What was old buddy Norv Turner was doing some end around.
See, Norv was better than Scott. Norv was better than Scott.
And then a lot of the ways, and also if you remember early on, Ron Rivera wasn't playing That was like a whole thing during that season.
Oh,
Why aren't
gosh.
we playing Curtis Samuel more?
Torrey Smith.
just
Was it
wasn't-
Torrey
yeah.
Smith? That was 2 years ago, though, I think.
And then the dude that we got from LSU, or he went to LSU. Oh, what was the guy? Russell Shepard. And then remember Russell Shepard was on the team, and we were still playing him, and he was dropping passes like a dumbass. Dude, I'm telling. I don't want to take away.
That's probably the most exciting thing about the rule.
Yeah, it's so stupid.
Takeover is that, like, we don't know if he's going to be better or worse, but damn, he cannot be worse with trying to identify the younger guy that's ready to play.
Mm-hmm.
Ron Rivera may be the worst homie in that thing. It's like at some point, like, you just got to say this, that's why I'm tired of the Curtis Samuel talk, to be honest. It's not about Curtis Samuel. It's like, I wish we could have just done this 2 years ago. Like, now it's the year. It's like 5 years later. Oh, my God. I'm so tired.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. So can I take this?
I mean, I get what you're talking about. I mean, it is exhausting to have the constant, constant just hope that it's going to happen and it never end up taking place. I mean, that is something that I don't disagree with that. What
if I told you this, CK? What if I told you this? Is like, Coney Ely is still going to be the bomb. Coney Ely had the Panthers won the Super Bowl.
He had the MVP.
He had the exact game that Von Miller had. He had like one of the best games in the history of football. Right? Coney Ely. We're 2 years giving up on Coney Ely. Why is it that we are 2 years away from believing that Curtis Samuel is the next Randy Moss? Why? I mean, like, what's the unfairness? That's why I'm just fatigued. I want Curtis Samuel to be fantastic, but I am so fatigued by this. I almost feel like this must be what the listeners of this podcast felt like me talking about Damiere Byrd.
Yeah, but do you get why it sounds like you're just shitting on him for things that he
I'm
can't
not
control?
shitting on him. I'm just tired
really
of y'all
kinda,
acting like he's the best motherfucker in the world.
See,
But-
I'm
okay,
with you,
but-
Tony. I'm
but-
on your side.
But Tony, what I'm saying, it takes two to tango. If you're a fucking receiver, that you have to have a quarterback that can throw you the football.
He's average. He's average. He's average.
Based on what? Based on what?
All right, well, how about this? Tell me what he is above average, homie. Tell me what he is above average.
We were talking. Well,
Greg, get in there. Greg, yeah.
Real quick, we were talking about earlier him being like a wide receiver. Tony's defending the action that he's not going to be the best in the world. But we talked about his, what do you say, CK, was the number of his passes that were catchable?
62%.
Okay, see, that takes a lot of factors into it. I was thinking about this a minute ago. There's more factors that go into a catch being catchable than it being the wide receiver's fault that it wasn't caught. Or, excuse me, the quarterback's fault that it wasn't caught. The wide receiver can drop the ball. There could be pass interference. It could be tip. There's tons of things that can happen. It could be that stat is kind of a naked stat. There needs to be more that goes with that to make that stat
is
more legitimate.
mainly meant as a not necessarily from a coverage perspective, but from whether the ball is actually catchable from what the quarterback threw, where the ball landed, or whatnot is it could be that the ball was tipped at the line and it was headed for Curtis Samuel. There's a lot of different factors that definitely can take place outside of that, but it is less about the coverage and more about whether the ball is actually on target.
It's also still a stat of what could have been.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
That's my point. That's why I'm fatigued by this Curtis Samuel. And I feel like I was the Curtis Samuel dude for a while. And I'm not an anti-Curtis Samuel.
Yeah.
I'm just saying this is like, Yes, this mug got 7 touchdowns on 5 carries. Yes, you heard those numbers. 7 touchdowns. That's what Cody wants you to know. He got 7 touchdowns on 5 carries. It's impossible.
In an offense that barely tried
That's
to
not
get
a
him the
true
football.
stat, by the way. You can't get 7 touchdowns on 5 carries. It's impossible. My point. You know, I mean, but like, look, I'm not saying he's bad, but Jesus, like, come on.
He hasn't proven to me that he's a top.
Tired
wide
of
receiver.
future potential. Why don't we then just get back to Cam?
But again,
because Cam gave us real potential. Cam gave,
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like, let's talk about what you did for me. This girl sucked
Samuel.
my, you know what? This girl might, you know what?
That makes
Hold on.
no sense.
What are you saying, Cody? You're not saying anything about Curtis Samuel. What are you talking about? What
No,
else are we
because
talking about?
no, because all right, this is my when you have endless amounts of
You're
footage
gay
of
for
Curtis
Samuel.
in the middle of a game, getting open, beating coverage, being at the right place at the right time, he's doing his job, and yet he doesn't even have a 50-yard game because the football isn't going somewhere where he can catch the
Then the
football.
coaching staff
That is
isn't
what
doing their
Curtis
job.
is
That's
putting
not
on
Kyle Allen's
Curtis.
fault. That's the coaching staff's fault. We should
Uh-oh.
have found more
Here's this argument
dynamic.
again. Here we go.
We should have found more dynamic ways to get him involved. If he see,
Greg's
that's the
getting
thing.
a semi, guys. Come on, we gotta just get.
All right, we don't need to talk about this for 12 hours, but Cody loves Curtis Samuel. I think he's.
You know what?
You know
Curtis
what? I
Samuel
would
is a
sleep with
perfect
him.
comparison.
Hey, how about this? You wanna put it on my gayness radar? Cody.
Put it on your.
Yeah, put it on my gayness radar. Right. It's like you give me Barack Obama and you give me Cam Newton. You know what's going down. Curtis Samuel. Buy me a drink, maybe.
You know what?
Buy me a
comparison-
drink, maybe, and we'll see what happens.
All right. I mean, look, hey, keep on, and listen. He might not have the.
That
He
was
might
so
not have the
funny
quarterback.
that you.
He might not have the quarterback to get him the ball this year. I hope, but he might
I hope
not.
he's the
And
best
then he might
fucking
not even
motherfucker in
be
the
on
world.
Panthers
I feel bad
after
for
that.
him, man. To be honest,
Edelman
That's
is
what I'm
better than
saying,
Julio
man.
Jones, obviously.
I really
Here's my bet. Curtis Samuel is going to be a really good NFL receiver, but it's not going to be for the Panthers.
How about this? I'll make you a prop bet right now, Cody.
Okay.
No matter what team Curtis Samuel plays for, because here's my comparison with Curtis Samuel.
The
Is
worst will
David
be
Clowney.
the Panthers.
We were just talking about David Clowney, how he was expected to be really, really great. When he's good, he's really good. When he's bad, he's really bad, but he's very injury prone. So I will make you a bet right now that Jadeveon Clowney, pending the fact that he gets signed, will have more sacks than Curtis Samuel has touchdowns next year.
He'll have more sacks than Curtis
sacks than
Samuel.
Curtis Samuel has.
That is a great.
Dunzo,
But that's
Dunzo.
pending the fact that he gets signed. 'Cause
Right.
he's not signed
which
yet.
I
So-
think
Yeah,
is so
fine.
fair.
I
And
am
I think
all-
Greg,
I am-
I'm with you, bro. Greg.
I am
like that bet.
all
I think it's a
over that
great.
one.
So
Greg's an
what
odds
over
maker,
that
bro.
What are we
Dude,
betting?
Dude, I'll go wherever you want, man.
Do 5. What have we done for everything? We've done 5 or 10. Let's do 5 or 10.
Yeah, 5 works because I'm going to make a lot of prop bets this season. So
No.
write them
You
down.
guys have to do something beyond money. You got to do something that the viewers can see.
Oh, do you both have beards? Greg, did you shave your beard?
Oh no! I'm not betting my beard.
Oh, yeah!
How
Shave
about
the
this?
beard!
I'll shave my head. How about that?
No, your head's shaved up.
Fuck no.
You know what? You know what it needs to be.
Hey.
You know what it needs to be. It needs to be. We got to figure out Cody's, but Greg's has to be. He has to paint on the side of his new barn that it turns out it was coaching.
You know what? This is actually good. Like I said, we should do a prop bet show. I will definitely bet my beard, and I want to have a bet. I got to think about what I want to do. That we're all 3 involved in, me, CK, and Cody. And Tony, you got to include your hair, and you got to include your hair.
Balls.
So we got to figure out some kind of prop bets. But prop bets are fun, man. But I'll definitely make that bet. You know, for right now, we'll say
I'll
$5.
make
We
that
can
bet.
change the terms, just $5. So Jadeveon Clowney, when he gets signed, has more sacks than Curtis Samuel has
What a
touchdowns next year.
good! I'm gonna make Greg the odds maker of the show because he always comes up with these like kind of questions that I think are odds maker questions. Like that's a good one. You know what I'm saying? Like if you think about it, is like Clowney could have 6 sacks next year, and that is like if you think Curtis Samuel's gonna ball. If you think what do you think he's really gonna get? Like 10, homie?
I take so. By the way, last
Seriously,
year,
no.
I mean, you should take him up on it, man. Go ahead and
It's
put the
a
bet-
good
take him up.
odds maker. You're my
I'm in on,
you're my
I'll
odds
go $10.
maker, Greg.
I'll say, I'll go $10. I'm so confident that Curtis will.
Oh
beat
my
whatever Clowney's
God! You
sack
shitting
number
on
is.
Jadeveon.
What was
Clowney.
Yeah,
what was his sack number last year?
Like 3 or 4. He didn't have it.
Yeah. I'm all in on.
What was Curtis?
What was
Samuel's
Curtis
touchdown?
Samuel's? What was Curtis Samuel's touchdown? Get him, so homie, get him, Greg. Get him.
Which,
Greg.
by the way, 6
I'm with Greg
touchdowns
on
on 50 catches is actually over
Alright,
10%
that's
touchdown
fine.
ratio.
I don't care.
Yeah.
How many he have last year? How many?
6.
He had 6 last year.
6
Wow.
touchdowns last year with 50 receptions on 64 catchable balls
He
coming
had
his way.
6
Stand
last
behind
year.
my
That's
bet.
a little bit more
Stand
than
behind
I
my
was expecting.
Greg, I'll happily take your money, man. I'll happily.
All right, last call.
but that
Let's
is
get
a
the
good
hell
one,
out of
though.
here. This is way too long. We've been arguing.
Hey, everybody.
We've been mad at
This
each
is
other
Anthony
like
Rochelle.
America.
I just wanted to let you know, I got a little bit of African American in me, and my family from my dad's side is African American.
You're pulling the one drop
And,
rule.
yeah, I mean, I just, wish everybody can get along, and it's not just all about race. It's about just
Justice,
appreciating
empathy,
human beings
quality.
in general. I'm a Christian, and I love God, and I just wanted to share all this. And also, I'm hoping we get a good, solid, good player for the Panthers. Next season too. I don't know, depending on the draft. But I hope you guys have a great day. God bless you all. Go Panthers.
Thank you,
Panthers.
Anthony.
We pound it.
Anthony's got a voice made for radio. He's got a very powerful and strong, captivating. And so, yeah. Oh, say it. See, have you scared anybody lately?
Yeah, I did today.
What'd they do?
No, they just laughed.
Uh-huh.
I love how nonchalant. Yeah, I did it today.
So,
It's
Anthony
fun. I had a good
Rochelle, my
time.
man. Anthony, thank you for your support of the podcast. The number's 252-228-5098. You can follow us on Twitter at @cat_chronicles. You can check the show out every Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to the podcast. There's no more news. I don't want to talk anymore. Let's get it over with. Let's get to the ice up picks.
I have a good
Who
one.
we icing up this week? You got a good one?
Yes,
You're
it
going
has
first,
to go
homie.
first.
You are going
It has
first.
to.
Well, I mean, and this is again just based on the first half of our conversation today.
It's Tony.
I'm not. It's not
coming.
low hanging.
It's Tony.
It's not low hanging fruit. It is something that I think that needs to be said. There was somebody who I thought had made a post, and you guys may have seen it, that was probably one of the most genuine posts, and it was a guy who was apologizing to Cap, right? And I'm not, again, regardless of what your feelings are with Cap, it's not about that. But what he was saying is like, I'm sorry, 4 years ago, I told you that, I didn't, essentially saying that I thought you were wrong for doing things the way you were doing it. That, maybe that things are a bit overblown or that you're creating a narrative that didn't exist. And had I listened 4 years ago, and I think what he's trying to do is speak not only on behalf of himself, but as a society in general, said, I truly apologize because, I reflect now and I realize that had we done something then, there's a possibility George Floyd is alive or any of the other people and over the past year, month, 4 years, whatever, that have been victims of these, the systemic racism as they talk about, and basically apologizing for that. And again, a very vulnerable message, and it wasn't about self-promotion. He didn't have a blue check next to his name. It was just a genuine message, and honestly, I felt it, and you could tell by the verbiage and the fact that, he put himself out there, and somebody posted and said, basically said, we don't need your apology, and basically attacked him for his apology, saying, it's basically what I wish I had it up. I couldn't find it for it, but
it's a no-win situation, right?
Yeah. So here's the thing: is when people actually start seeing what you've been preaching and trying to tell us about, when even though we may be refusing to for years, in the moment we start realizing we were wrong to be attacked, what you're doing is making it harder for anybody else to actually have that same vulnerability and to see your side of things anymore. You've now created a divide that is so difficult to get past, because why am I going to apologize to be attacked? Point. Whereas if you're putting yourself in a vulnerable position and saying, hey, listen, I wish I had acted, nothing I can say is going to make this different. It's not going to bring Mr. Floyd back. But I am aware that I could have been a part of the solution, but for 4 years I was a part of the problem, and to be attacked, that's something I just want to put out there as a message. When somebody actually is finally listening to what you're saying, appreciate that. Do not attack him, because for me, to say 10 years ago that I'd have the same opinions I have right now. You wouldn't have been able to convince me 10 years ago that I had these opinions. Again, not saying that I had a feeling of hate toward any race or anything like that, but that's just my reality. So anybody who wants to try to undermine somebody's vulnerability in a very tough situation, and when they're trying to put themselves or hold themselves accountable emotionally, but also publicly, for people to see that, they were wrong, to attack them, that's just something that I cannot condone. All I can say is ice up to anybody who had that feeling of frustration with that message, saying too late, or, we don't need your apologies now, you're 4 years too late, or whatnot.
Oh, those you could have said 100 years too late, jerk. Of course. Yeah. Passion. Patience, empathy, right? Mm-hmm. Compassion, understanding. That's what we have to have with everybody.
Yeah.
It's just simple. And I'm not going to chastise anybody that's been slighted. It's just that's what I'm going to tell myself. Patience, compassion, understanding, empathy, forgiveness. I'm not telling you what to do. That's what I'm trying to do. You're right. Ice up. Who wants next?
I'll go next.
All right.
Real quick, before I go with my ice up, I do want to, because CK kind of hit on this point, and I wanted to bring it up earlier, but we got past it, so I let it go. My issue with Colin Kaepernick is not the kneeling. So just so y'all know, it's not the kneeling process. If you want to talk to me about it, hit me up on Twitter at @thebatdaddy52. I'll talk to you all about it. It's not with the kneeling, because I fully stand for everybody's right to protest or to express emotion the way they feel is right, as long as it's not within violence or destructive type thing. So it's not a matter of that. So I don't want people thinking that, oh, well, he just hates Colin Kaepernick because he kneeled for the flag. No, I was in the Army. So the flag means a lot to me, but I also realized that I fought for the right for somebody to have their own opinion about that. And That's not my issue. I have a lot of other issues with him. That's nothing to do with that. So if you want to talk to me about it, like I said, hit me up. But my ice up pick, I'm icing up the Major League Baseball. They are going to robotic umpires and electronic strike zones from what the last I heard. I don't know how true this is. I Googled it and it's on about 20 different pages. So I imagine it's probably true. I don't like this. It's the same thing with replay with, pass interference, stuff like that. Human error is part of the game. It always has been. It always should be. I get people want things to be right, but that's competition. I mean, maybe it's just me sticking with old times. I'm not sure. I don't want a robot behind a batter calling out a strike or, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, the getting mad at the umpire for missing that one call or for when you thought that it was in the strike zone and he just called it just barely out. That's what the passion of the game is about. I mean, I get that making it more accurate, I guess maybe might make it more fun, but man, the human error is part of the game to me. And I just don't like the idea of the MLB moving to electronic and electronic umpires and digital strike zones. Because even those can be, those can be fudged just as much as as a regular umpire saying something or making a call. I mean, how easy is it to hack into something nowadays? So it just, I don't know. For me,
that's a little kind of the hacking of it might be a little. What is it when you're conspiratorial?
You don't believe that somebody
how about this?
$100,000 on a game couldn't hack it, couldn't pay to have a hack.
We all watch it. We all watch where the baseball went. The box is up there. We all get to see it. I would actually say this is that instead of worrying about the conspiratorial part, I think making sports too sanitary may be boring.
Okay. Yeah.
Right, so I'm with you. I mean, I don't think that my concern is not about how it changes baseball based on can the Russians hack the system? More about does it make it? Yeah. Does it take a little bit of the drama away?
That's my thing.
That's what I would. So continue.
No, that's about it. MLB ice up. I don't like this. I don't like this at all. But I guarantee you, once it happens, they're not going to go back. This is it. They're never going back to regular umpires again. I don't think it's not going to, unless there's a huge strike or protest against baseball, which won't happen either.
Cody?
So,
my ISO pick is going to the report put out that people should wear masks while having sex.
I did that before COVID. What are you talking about?
Oh, you
Greg wore his
mask, the Mandalorian mask.
Yeah, it's Mandalorian
mask. Oh yeah, I bet you're into all kinds of crazy shit. Yeah.
What is it when you dress up like a Pikachu or
cosplay?
Furry?
Yeah, the furry. That's what it is. The furry.
Oh yeah.
Hey man, hey man, don't knock it till you try it, man. You never put on
I've never tried a Pikachu, so I've never
and knocked boots. Yeah, man. Hey, you never know. But no, that's so ridiculous. I'd rather get coronavirus than get some wearing a mask on my face. So yeah, fuck that. Even if it's straight from the CDC, man, don't care. Not doing it. Eyes up, son.
Don't trust any of those fools, to be honest, because we've read a million reports about how it's you can touch things, you get the coronavirus. You can kiss things, you can get coronavirus. I don't even know what I would say is wash your hands, sleep with the people that don't got the coronavirus, and
wash my hands.
So
yeah.
So treat it like herpes, but wash your hands, right?
Exactly. All those things. Treat it like all of that and the flu. Would you sleep with someone that had the flu? Maybe. Dudes will do anything. Dudes will do. I'm taking this. This might not happen again for another.
Well, you know what you do? You hit it from the back so she coughs.
Oh, gosh. It's the rudest thing I've heard.
Tell the CDC that.
That was good. That was real good. That was good.
Yeah. You can't un-CDC.
My ice up pick goes to the police state that we live in.
Okay.
I saw.
And this is not I don't want you guys to think about this. This is not like a disappreciation or unappreciation for people that risk their lives to make our community better, this and that. Like, no, is that if you take that responsibility upon yourself, congratulations to you. I will thank you if I see you in person, all of those things. But I don't like this society that we kind of live in where it's like every firefighter ran into a building and saved somebody. Like, it's like this hero worship mentality. And ultimately, we live in a society that is overly government regulated. And call me a libertarian at this moment. Call me a hypocrite because I work for a place that's paid by the state, which is totally true. I just feel like this is that there's too many rules in our society. And not that I want a lawless society. I want a lawful society. I want a ruly society. But do we have to ticket every single person? You know what I'm saying? Arrest all these. Look, you want to use a high profile example? Let's talk about marijuana and criminalization of that. But how about this? Is like, let's not just write somebody a $50 ticket for the grass being too. It's too many rules all the time. And right now, I'm in a city that told us we all had to be in our houses by 8. And I'm sorry. Like, there's nothing really going on in my society. I'm fully capable of taking care of my family and making good decisions. Too many. It's just a financial police state. And the goal is not to incarcerate. It's to suck you dry of money. And the reason people are in prison because they ain't got no damn money. That's really the reason. So the whole state is meant to suck you dry of your dollar. So here's the freedom. Here's the podcasters who have been doing this COVID shit since 2012. Here's the best friends that hang out on Tuesdays and ruffle feathers. That's my ice up pick, guys. It's a C3 Panthers podcast. My name's Tony Dunn at @cat_chronicles on Twitter. Cody, I'm a fan of the Cripple Connection. I'm telling you this. I wasn't just waving my hands over there trying to get your attention. I was enthralled in the conversation. 100%. The reason I was commenting in the chat room, I was into it. And to be honest, I don't even know that game. Never played it. Thought it looked a little like you guys were describing, plus Horizon Zero Dawn type feel to it.
Yeah.
You know, so I was into the show. Check out the Cripple Connection. How can they find you?
Yeah, man. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, Cody Lashley. Eventually, it'll have a YouTube channel of its own. But right now, subscribe to my channel for we do a brand new podcast every Friday. It's a video game podcast. Tony was talking about, we were going over The Last of Us, which they're doing all the new press conferences for the new consoles. And The Last of Us, it looks fun. If you've never played it, definitely check it out. It's coming out next. I believe next
stab
month.
in the throat scene was dope.
Yeah, Ghost of Tsushima is another game that's coming out soon that everyone needs to be on the lookout for. But follow me on Twitter at CodyLac, CodyLac, and we're back to doing the monthly because it's the off season. But check me out as the Panthers analyst on DraftHack.com. New write-up just went up yesterday, so check it out.
CK, are you gonna go hit the video games now?
It's possible. There is a possibility that takes place.
Where can they watch you play video games at?
You can watch me on Twitch at Codizzle_Allen. I am trying to get to that affiliate stage. I am at 43 followers. Joe Riolano has been a avid watcher and supporter up to this point, so I appreciate the heck out of him. I'll be there at 8:30 in the morning until 10:30 tomorrow morning, and Joe's actually going to join me tomorrow and play. So
he's gonna play with you.
Yeah,
yes,
he's gonna play.
That's dope.
Yeah.
I'm on. I'm getting. What are you guys playing? You guys playing Warzone?
Warzone, yeah.
Can I get on that? I'll set my alarm.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
I might be there at
I'll get
9:30. I might be there at 9:30, but I'll text you.
That's all right, man. Yeah, you could do that. I mean, we're happy to bring anybody along that's available. I just didn't think you were going to be. I thought you might be working. So
I am.
Working.
Greg, where can they find your 40 podcast at?
Oh man, I got a long list here. You can find me at the BatDaddy52 on Twitter. It's my only form of social media. It's if you want to contact me directly. I also do a show on Friday nights. It is the Super Civil Service Podcast. We are attempting to go live just like this show. First week went great. Second week was horrible. I'm trying week 3 right now. As soon as we get about 2 or 3 weeks in the books of me running it properly and having everything go straight, we're going to start working on fan giveaways, all kinds of stuff like that. And then I'm also a part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance, which is a new network that just launched yesterday. I run a 2-show. Well, I'm on 2 shows on there. The DC Alliance podcast, where we talk everything DC Comics, and superhero discussions, where we talk about animated series. Right now, we're talking about the 1995 animated Superman series, which is a phenomenal watch. It's fun to go back and check it out. But you can check out the DC Alliance or DC Ultimate Alliance podcast network 5 days a week. We're dropping shows every day, so you can come there for all your geek stuff. Every day of the week. So
Greg,
good stuff. But we
do
just started
not
this week.
smoke meth to keep this shit alive.
Oh,
this
gosh.
man's building the building. He does everything. Check out my man Greg on all those podcasts that I'm excited about. I'm not even. I'm excited about it, but I'm like, how do you even? I have to go watch this. Now I'm gonna go watch this 1995 anime of What was it? Superman.
It's so fun. Yeah, Superman the animated series.
I'm watching
95.
it now. Now I'm gonna comment. Ask Cody
So
how
fun.
I get on y'all's podcast. Ask my man.
That's true.
I'm all in. Check everybody out. We'll be here next Tuesday night. Go Panthers. Eli Apple, the next. Who's the best
Big thing, right?
cornerback in the league? Who's the best corner in the league? He's the next one. He's the next. He's going to be awesome. He's the apple of our eye. It's the C3 Panthers podcast. We'll check you out next week.
Peace.
There you go.
Later.